Creo que ya aquí están las almohaditas.
Sí, bueno.
Sí, señorita, ya voy, ya voy.
Cualquier cosa me necesita.
Dale.
¿Sí? Cualquier cosa me necesita.
Está bien. Oh my God. I hate that.
It's a great starting picture.
No, man. Okay, Patrick.
Thank you so much, Patrick. First dibs. Oh, Willie over.
Hello, everybody. Go ahead and sit down. Yes, please. Sorry. How's everyone doing? Great. I was just like walking across the stage. Whoa. So, hello everybody. How are y'all doing? Who's excited to be here? Welcome to the Dallas Youth2Business Forum. This is ISEC in the United States' second Youth2Business Forum in the past year. The first one was in Charlotte, and that was really fun. But this time, we have something even better for you guys. Because the theme is building the millennial workforce. So it's all about you guys. Who here's a millennial? Yes, be excited about it. Millennials are all about the Twitter, the Facebook, the Google, however a president wants to pronounce those words. We are young, we are excited, and we are here today to make a difference. So, there's two things I want to talk about in regards to building the millennial workforce. Employment and education. That's why we're here, and that's what the conversations are going to be about. So we have a lot of speakers that came from all over the country to make sure that we're creating a dialogue on these two topics. So employment, what's going to happen after college? What's going to happen with your paychecks? What's going to happen with the economy? What is going to happen that's going to enable everyone in this room to really make a difference? And education. How do we allow more people to find better education and to find better pathways for success? We have a lot of questions under these subtopics, and I want to make sure that we answer as many of them as possible. But more than that, that we take them back to our local communities and we create conversations there. Who comes from a community where we don't talk enough about education? Who comes from a community where we don't talk about employment until it's too late? We need to have these conversations now. And I think this is the perfect group to start the conversation here in Dallas and here in the United States. I don't hear enough of it. And I'm excited for all of you to be a part of it. So I'm going to go through the agenda. Firstly, we have the keynote speech, and then we will have a panel discussion. Afterwards, the student soapbox will be happening, and I'm really excited for this. It's something brand new we're doing in the US. We have 4 great people that are from the student audience that are going to be saying things. Same thing. Right. We will have a networking lunch, so this is your time to meet all the speakers. Speakers, if you want to raise your hands and say what up.
What up?
Yeah. We'll be having workshops. We have 5 total workshops, so when you came to the room, you got a sticker on your name badge. That's the workshop we're going to be going to. If you did not RSVP for a workshop, you'll have to go to whatever's left over. But they're all cool, so it's all cool. And finally, we're having an action space in closing. And this is where we're taking everything we've learned today, all the conversations we've had, we're going to come together and form output stations to answer questions on how employment and education can become more relevant to our generation and our society as a whole. That's important right now. That's why we're here. So before we begin, I want to really thank two amazing people that helped a lot with this. So Annabelle, can you stand up? So a big shout out to these two. They're both full-time students at their respective universities. They both had leadership roles in ISEC this year, which took up a lot of their free time. But they decided that they were going to help with this project, that they were going to help bring as many speakers as they could and get the content as perfect as they could. And so for that, I'm so grateful to have both of you here helping me out with Youth to Business. So thank you guys so much. And I don't know if I said it, because I usually forget to say it, but once again, my name is Aaron Mack, and I'm the project manager for Youth to Business. And I'm excited. I'm so excited. So I'd like to introduce my first speaker, Louis Navia. So Louis, you want us to stand up? Oh, not yet, just stand up.
Hi, how are you guys?
So Louis is Tammy is from the board of directors, and she also has her own consulting services.
And noticing,
so panel, moderator.
I have to say yesterday I looked more professional today. Youth to business.
I love Tammy. We have Stacy Mason from Lenovo. We have Anamar Garza from the medical team. We have Saki Takasu, former development director of the U.S. Japan Council. And we have Bjorn Wilhart from Inspire Learning in Austin. We have Cynthia. Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
Cynthia O.
Onugawa? Onukuba. Woo! She's one of our student soapbox speakers. We have Lauren Burrows. She's one of our student soapbox speakers. We have Atilia Mom. And Pavusa Chimbabaram. So I think that both of them I still need to figure out the last name. I apologize. We have Romelia Flores from IBM as a workshop host. We have Sid as a workshop host from IBM as well. We have Trent Navram from representing Ashoka. We have Pentalaga Cervantes as another workshop host representing Teach for America. We have Drew Garrison, who is not in the house yet, he will be here soon, and he's representing Mission of Hope Haiti. So, and there's one last group that I would like to thank for being here. You guys. The creatives, the thinkers, the dreamers, the actioneers, the millennials. Because the millennials are the people that are going to take this out and make things happen with the output we create today. So give yourselves a round of applause. So, without further ado, I'd like to invite Louis Navia to start his keynote presentation.
Guys, thank you so much for having me. No matter how many I do of these, like the butterflies in your stomach right before it, it's always a great feeling. So, how many of you have read Elite Daily? Okay. How many of you have shared Elite Daily? Awesome. How many of you want to write for Elite Daily? Okay, come see me afterwards. Perfect. So, we're talking about millennial workforce, and Aaron asked me to speak about the challenges. So I kind of wanted to flip that upside down and talk about the opportunities that are in the workforce for millennials. So I'm going to start off with a little bit about me. I'm the Director of Innovation and Culture for Elite Daily. And even my own employees and our staff kept asking, what do you do for us? Right? You don't write, you You're not in ad ops, you're not in business development, and you're not in video. So what do? On the innovation side, I kind of have to be the pioneer. Think of me as the Lewis and Clark of digital media. I have to be about 2 years ahead of the trends in order to see who we can partner with, what are the topics that our generation is going to be speaking about, and what technology we need to start implementing in-house. So I deal with a lot of algorithms, I deal with a lot of personnel, and I deal with a lot of topic research before it even happens. And that's on one end. On the culture end, most people think of culture as dining, food, the games, the ping pong table. Yes, I do all that, but that's only about 5 to 10% of my responsibilities on culture. On culture, we have to figure out how we can take each individual's person, each one of our staff, and make them optimize for their role. We realize that every person is very unique, so we have to make sure that their development and their progress in our company is catered to their individual personality. So what may work for, say, Lauren may not work for Sam. And we have to make sure we adapt those ecosystems and those environments and see how they interconnect with one another to make sure that collectively and individually we're taking the goal of the company to the next level. This is who we are. This is the family, right? It's about 65 of us. The average age is 23 years old, and I am actually the 5th oldest person at the company. Yeah. This was actually at a retreat earlier this summer. It was really amazing. We had a bunch of fun. So let's go into the millennial workforce. What does that look like? And this is by the numbers right now. We have currently 36% of the workforce is millennials. 50% of the global population is under 30. So 3.5 billion people are part of our generation globally, and that means something. What is it going to shape? What are we going to do about it? And how we perform, we're shaping that. That's really amazing. 75% of the global workforce by 2025 is going to be us. Imagine 75%. Our parents are going to be retiring, our younger brothers are going to be graduating, and we're going to be the ones hiring, we're going to be the ones passing legislation, we're going to be the ones investing, we're going to be the ones shaping each and every single day of our world. How amazing is that? Right now, we're 82 million strong in the United States. What does that mean? That for the first time in history, we are the largest generation ever. So our next election, we're going to be a major force. And by 2020, we're going to account for 90% of the electoral votes. So that means that our generation will single-handedly elect the next president of the United States on 2020. And Ali Bailey is 100% millennial, except for a board of advisors, of course. But that's the reality of it. So my next topic is, if you're not at the table, you will be on the menu. What does that mean, right? Let's create a funny scenario. Have you ever been at a table with your friends that are grabbing lunch, and all of a sudden you talk about Susie Smith last night at the party because she's not at the table, right? So that means that you're on the menu. Politically, we can talk about it in the sense that legislation is being passed that affects us with our voices. So student loans, education, FAFSA, right? Upward mobility, opportunity, birth of opportunity, the opportunity to birth. These things are happening without our consent when it'll affect us. What does this mean? That we have to have values, right? Our generation is the first generation that puts values on top of it. And we're talking about values in the sense of, I want to work something towards greater than myself, something satisfying, something that I know that is honest, hard work, and results in a result that I can be proud of. Not just one that I can tweet about or Facebook about, but something that you're going to look back at your deathbed and you can be like, hey, because of my values, I was able to guide myself through that. We're very active, believe it or not. So like, if you think about it, Hong Kong right now, right? Go international. Hong Kong, one of the largest activism movements that was started by a 17-year-old student. How amazing is that? It lasted about 2.5 months, and it was led by a 17-year-old. Holy cow, that's really amazing. We're extremely loyal, whether it's to brands, or it's organizations, or our schools, or our friends. For instance, like how many of you have an Apple computer? How many of you were willing to change that computer? Exactly, right? Like once you go Apple, you'll go Apple. For me, for instance, like my boat shoes are 100% spare. and they will be scary till the day I die. Just because, right? Just because I have brand loyalty. Mind you, again, my loyalty also goes to my friends. Those friends that have been there for me, the ones that have been there through and through, no matter what, there's about 6 or 7 of them that I'll go to war when I meet with. And our generation sees loyalty as the #1 concern with our generation. So let's take a look at what does it mean to be at the table and not at the menu politically. Alex Worth founded the campaign for the President's Youth Council as a freshman at Harvard. This was part of the Y2B club, study group, and actually went from an idea as a high school student to a full-blown resolution passed by the Congress and Senate to actually support of the President's Youth Council. He wanted to have a seat at the table to be able to advise the President, Congress, and Senate on youth issues. That's what it means to be at the table. Many of you, I don't know how many of you have heard of Money Thing? Okay, it's really awesome. So Ted Gonder is an social entrepreneur. He, in 2009, went to the University of Chicago and he wanted to talk about personal finance. How many of you have taken a personal finance class? How many of you know how to balance a checkbook? Okay, that's more than most people. Well, Ted started this and said, look, I want to be at the table because personal finance is not taught. I want to create something. He was an activist, he was loyal to his cause, and now, last year, he was appointed by the President of the United States to the Board of Financial Advisory for Youth. Imagine that. Went from an idea to being appointed by the President of the United States, and he's had a couple other additions to his resume, which are really, really great. And then, of course, on the private sector, Ellie Bailey, we were kind of tired of reading the news that, quote unquote, our parents were telling us, right? The who, the what, the when, and the where. This is what you should care about. But we decided that we wanted to hear the news in our own tone, in our own voice. I wanted to hear from my friends who were making the news versus the people who were regurgitating it. So this is what we did, and we decided to be at the table in digital media, and now we have an audience of 74 million people. So a lot of people tell us that we are the me generation, right? Entitled, your parents tell you, yeah, you have it easy, when I was your age, these things and those things. Well, yeah, we are the me generation, but somehow we ended up flipping it and became the we generation. One of my favorite quotes that was embedded to me when I graduated was, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. And that brings so many sentiments in life, whether it's your family, your personal, your work, but it's really interesting to see how we became the me to the we. So imagine a case scenario where you're with your manager, and you're at work, you're internship, or you're even at school. Sometimes we tell our managers, hey, I just started my presentation. Here's the first draft. Hey, manager, here's my ideas. What is occurring? Yeah, your manager may be like, hey, listen, I don't need to know step by step what you're doing, and I really don't like the fact that you're presenting everything egocentrically, but when you become a part about it, check me out, this is what I'm doing, this is where I'm at, guess what happens? It's communication, it's transparency. And when you make it about us, you're actually making it about everybody else. So what encouragement you tell your manager, hey, this is what I'm doing in this presentation. Well, he may be able to guide you, he may be able to amend it, be able to pivot it, or he may be able to find a resource for you to be able to connect you to somebody else. So we're not communicating, we're not progressing. So when we are becoming the me generation, indeed, we are, but we're also the we generation. What does this mean? It means competitive collaboration. We work with our own competitors to make sure that our industry is still sustainable, right? Even though we are head-to-head against the market, we make sure to help each other out. We also create competitive collaboration partnerships with governments, .orgs, and .edus. For the first time ever, is our generation saying, hey, you're my direct competitor, let's work together to be better. And then you see these partnerships with multiple Fortune 500 companies all the way down to mini startups. Transparency is very important for us. We're a generation that technically was born in a digital age, in a digital boom, and now we're sharing everything about our lives. We're talking about the moment you went on vacation, all the way down to your new job, your graduation, that one breakup you had, and you just like get head over heels, and all of a sudden you're heartbroken. So we're telling everybody about everything, and which is really, really cool. It's really amazing because amazing things start happening when you're transparent. You can start connecting dots, you can start connecting people, and great opportunities start happening. Again, loyalty in the workforce is amazing. When brands and companies start taking care of the millennial generation, millennials are more likely to go 120% for that brand, brag about it, be about it, snap it. Like, you know, have you ever seen somebody so passionate about their job that that's all they can talk about? Yeah, that's the loyalty. You know, those are the people that are saying, hey, I want to stay at this brand for the next 10 years of my career. Even though a lot of our generation is known to hop around, a lot of our generation is also known to stick through the thick and thin for their brands to take care of themselves and for those who take care of them. We love building communities with that loyalty, whether it's through friends, Facebook groups, Twitter groups, sub-tweets, you know, whatever it is, we love building communities, whether they're artificial or in real life. Case in point, being here today, this is one of the most amazing communities that I've ever been able to be part of and witness. When you have community, you have values. When you have values, you have ethics. When you have ethics, you have guidelines, and those guidelines then create progress, they create innovation. You know, they create visions, they create disruption. Community is very important because for the naysayers and for the people who are not believing in you, you turn back to your community and they're the ones supporting you. You know, they're your pillars, but they're also your beacons. They're the ones that put you in check when you're doing really well, but they're also the ones to lend you a hand when you're down and out. This brings me to my next topic, passion and purpose. This was kind of like my mantra during my undergrad. I wouldn't do anything if I wasn't passionate about it, and I wouldn't do anything if it didn't have purpose on it. And I think that's a sentiment that a lot of our peers kind of echo. So who here does something for their passion? Who here works towards something greater than themselves, a purpose, right? Would you work or do anything if you did not have passion or did not add to your purpose? Exactly. So passion and purpose is the underlying foundation for a lot of the things that we do. Like I said, our generation is one majority, but it's driven by greater purpose in themselves. Whether it's a community, whether it's a goal, whether it's fundraising, whether it's political activism, we want to attach ourselves to legacy building, to something that says, hey, I was part of that. And you know what? That created X. And that X was the ability for 5 students to go to college. Or that product allowed, you know, anything to occur. So now we're seeing the impact. Millennial workforces are saying, what is my job doing for the greater purpose? Whether it's, for instance, IBM Watson, right? If you have millennials working at IBM Watson, they're saying, what is my role at IBM Watson doing? A lot. We're able to start researching hundreds of thousands of academic papers and medical papers for cancer research that's able to, quote unquote, reduce the amount of chemotherapy that your parents are going to have to go through if you have it. Wow. Imagine an engineer whose mother had breast cancer and now is working at IBM Watson. His passion and his purpose is going to be greater. He's going to be 100% more invested into working for IBM and getting that one algorithm and making sure that natural language recognition is optimized because he has a purpose that's greater than himself to cure something that affected him or her personally. So it's really awesome to see. And these are the guys who wake up at 5 in the morning, thoroughly excited, the people who hold a journal and say ideas flow, the guys who say, hey, how can I help you? How can I connect you? What can I do for you? Because I want to do something that's greater than me. It's part of our identity. We see it on Twitter, we see it on Facebook, but we also see it when we talk about it, right? Have you ever seen somebody, have you ever been in the presence of somebody when you have a conversation and all of a sudden you leave, and for some reason you feel empowered, you feel ambitious, and you're like, wow, that's really amazing. That's the tag, that's the hashtag in reality, right? The people who have that glistening in the eyes, and when you talk to them, you're like, hey, so I hear you really love helping place millennials in the workforce. Yeah, well, let me tell you about it really quickly. Like, man, we were at the youth conference in Dallas last week, and it was really amazing. And there's the speakers and these people, and how can I help? And you're like, oh wow, there's only a question. Like, but they're like oozing of energy and they just want to tackle the next thing. Well, that's millennials for you. They're the ones that are willing to help you, the ones that are passionately curious, and the ones that are always there to make sure that their quote unquote their branding is not only on digital media, but also in real life. Culture. The culture of millennials is very interesting. It's ever changing, right? We have the hipsters, we have the nerds, we have the political activists, we have the bros, we have all these many names for our generation. But the most important aspect of it all is that our culture is one of respect, one of admiration. It's never been seen before where a bro is now hanging out with a geek, or vice versa, or where the hipster is hanging out with a rock and roller, because the values are not seen on the surface. The values are now shared beyond surface levels of your morals, your identity, your community, and you no longer judge people by their book cover. You actually flip a couple of pages. You spend maybe like 2 to 3 weeks getting to know a person, and then you decide, which is pretty awesome. We're extremely ambitious, okay? Since 2009, the 5 top largest companies of growth have been founded by millennials. Facebook, Snapchat, we can talk about some Google being millennial, okay? Twitter, we're talking about billion-dollar industries. We're talking about the next Rockefellers, the next JP Morgans. And guess what? We're now in the Wild West again. And it's amazing, because the future is for us to build it, right? Like we're taking the status quo and saying, we can do that bigger, faster, cheaper. Oh, and guess what? We're gonna impact more people because of it. And we wanna give back. Our ambition is amazing. If you give us an inch, we'll probably take 10 miles. We love highways. And not only the highway of I-95, but the highway that says, hey, Louis, or hey, Susie, I need you to get this project done. Well, our parents and our previous generations and work management flow had these things called Microsoft Project Timeline, where you set milestones and you reach things and you have to get approval for this and you have to meet your manager for that. And there's 15 meetings in order to get to another meeting. And then there was like this bureaucracy, and then it needs to be approved by your manager, who needs 2 approvals from their director, and the director needs to get approval from the vice president, and then the vice president. Wait, might as well drop me in a Versailles maze, right? Because you're just going around, and what ends up happening is that productivity falls, and people are not attached to their work. So what do? We build highways. We tell them, hey, Susie, I need you to get X done by Y day. Doesn't matter whether you're working at 9 to 5, or whether you're working at 1 in the morning. We just want the end result. We want you to do it however you best can do it, connecting, and touch base with me when you have questions or you have hurdles. But here are the resources that you have. And sometimes they don't even use those resources. They go out of the community of their own, and they utilize their personal networks to empower their personal communities to get work done for their companies. So no longer are we utilizing the company's resources. We're seeing the highways coming together and connecting communities that are beyond corporations or beyond brands. So guess what? If you want to work with millennials, give them the runway. They'll bring you amazing things. They'll bring you the most innovative projects, the most creative designs, the most amazing campaigns, the greatest policy reductions, right? Personal finance, leadership, all those things were because they saw a highway, and the highway didn't even have to be paved. It could be like this rocky road and filled with grass, a couple boulders in the way. We'll find it. And we will come back to you and say, hey, remember that field that you gave me? Well, here's the Autobahn. Now drive through it. We're obsessed with execution, right? Like we love getting our hands dirty. We love research. We love activation. We love conversation. We love getting shit done. And I'm sorry for my French, but it's amazing when you're like executing, you see your progress, and you're like, yes, I love this, I love this, I love this. Oh wait, here's a hurdle. Well, guess what hurdle? I just jumped you. I may have tripped and fell, but I just jumped you because I still did it. I still jumped it. And we love execution. Why? Because it gets us results, right? There's nothing better than seeing your work. In tech, there's this term that's called it, ship it, right? It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to come out, right? Iterations can come through, right? Your first work doesn't have to be the best work. It just has to work. And that's the ability. Done is better than perfect, right? And that's a beautiful thing. When you see projects and collaborations happening all over the world with people that haven't even met themselves. I'll be perfectly honest. I'm here because of a single tweet to your digital chief marketing officer, Gordon. I said, Gordon, I want to help you with your millennial survey. I've never met him. Never. I've never shaken his hand. I know what he looks like, but now I'm here. You see, because of the results, because of execution, because we want to help each other out. Mind you, what does Elite Daily have to do with ASA? Except for millennial workforce, the fact that you guys do videos, absolutely nothing. But we're willing to help each other out to make sure that our messages are amplified. We're extremely creative. Who would have thought that one of the largest companies of our generation was about photo sharing that lasted 3 to 5 seconds? Like, what if I told you that about 5 years ago? Literally 5 years ago, and I said, hey, one of the most powerful companies of our generation is going to be deleteable photos. Exactly. Extremely creative. You give us a stick and stone, we'll build you a community. You give us brick and mortar, we'll build you an empire. Right? It's with these things. Give us the smallest job, give us the runway, we'll take it, we'll go to the next level for you. Collective freedom. It's kind of like an oxymoron, right? The collective is coming together, and freedom is going on your own terms. But a lot of our generation's colleges and a lot of our generation's jobs are very oxymoron, right? Collaborative competition. Why would you collaborate with a competitor? Why would you want to have collective freedom? For those of you who don't know what collective freedom is the ability for you to do what you want to do, with whom you want to do it with, how you want to do it, on your own terms. Right? You're no longer telling people, hey, I'm going to take this job because I need a paycheck. Yeah, some of us do that. But around 70% of graduates of college and universities are saying, how am I going to be able to do this with the people that I want to work with? And guess what? We don't look at resumes anymore. We look at people. Especially at Elite Daily, we don't look at resumes. We invite every single one of our candidates to come hang out at our offices, to come hang out with us for a couple of days, and then that's how we figure. Talent can be developed. Personality, not so much. Yeah, we have to be honest. Not everyone's fit for every company, right? The ability to learn and to have the ability to make these choices are now more and more prevalent in our generation than ever before. We're now saying no to the paycheck, we're saying yes to the purpose and who we want to work with. This is our generation in a box, literally. We take the impossible and we make it that not possible. You know, we were told that technology companies and base products and apps would not be able to take the market, and I remember coming out when the App Store came out in 2008, they said that this was going to be a year maximum, right? Gen Xers, every single Gen X writer said the App Store is going to fail because the iPhone is not going to make it. Guess what? The App Store alone produces 0.5% of our GDP growth of our economy. Yeah, think about it like that. So now everything that's impossible for us is possibilities. We now look at naysayers and say, thank you for that brick, because now I can build my castle with it. Thank you for that no, because that no is fueling my yes. Right? And some of the best people have done that. Everybody from Galileo to Da Vinci were told no. Everyone told us that we couldn't go to the moon. Everybody told us that our nation could not even be born. And guess what? We did it anyways, and we're now here. And because of turning the impossible into an impossible, the future is amazing because it's up for the taking. So now we're going to talk about a little bit about Elite Daily, kind of a shameless plug, to be honest, I think it's very relevant to us. So right now we're 65 family members. We're 3 years old. 3 years old. Okay? We could barely potty train if we were a baby. Okay? We would still be wearing a bib, and we would still be crawling around the house with making sure that our mom doesn't sleep. We have our average age is 23. How many of you are 23? Perfect. How many of you are below 23? Exactly. 70% of our staff it's their first job out of college. Imagine, no corporate bureaucracy, you get to do what you want, when you want it, how you want it. Oh, and wait, every week, there's gonna be a direct deposit into your bank account in order for you to pay your rent. How great is that? We're passion driven. Every single one of our staff goes to a passion test, right? We ask them, what are you passionate about? And if that conversation lasts more than 10 minutes, that's a milestone. Because when you're passionate about something, time doesn't exist. Time is actually on our side. Resources, who needs them? We'll figure them out. If we don't have it, we'll build it. If we can't build it, we'll create it. If we can't create it, guess what? We'll wait for it. We're patient for the resources. We're courageously curious. We look at problems and say, whoever said that that's going to be done? And we start driving these generational pathways. You know, I don't know if any of you have heard of Jack. He was one of the younger, he's 13 years old, he's one of the greatest scientists to ever exist. He reduced, I think it's pancreatic cancer, don't quote me on that, but I'm not really 100% sure. And he said, my uncle died of this cancer. There has to be a way to find the anomalies cheaper, faster, better. He was 12 years old, 13 years old at the time. And he said, guess what? I think I can do this faster, better, cheaper. And PhDs, we're talking about world-renowned scientists, turned him down. They said no. 199 of them said no. But the 200 said yes. Let's take it. And now he took a $2,000 test, brought it down to $99, and it's covered by insurance now. And it predicts it 96% retention rate, and actually predicts it a lot earlier than any other test. 13 years old. 13 years old, out of curiosity and passion and purpose. So here we are by the numbers. Elite Daily is a magnificent office. It's just the reason why, because it's you. Our contributing model, it allows every single person in our organization to write for us. We only have 34 staff writers. So that means that every single day, we publish roughly anywhere between 100 to 120 articles. That means that 90% of it comes from our contributing model, from our community. Because we want to amplify your voice, your saying, because we want to relate to you. So you look at it, we have 74 million people who like us, or read us. That says something. We're talking about 74 million people who come to us. Let me give you a perspective on scale. California, Arizona, and Florida. That's the population that comes to us on a monthly basis for their news, their content, their relationship advice, their next thing to work about. Why? Because we're talking to one another, not at each other, but with each other, right? Sometimes it's so much better to get a feeling of like, hey, I've been there, from a peer. Yeah, your parents can tell you all they want. Don't worry, life is gonna be great. Like, what do you know, mom? What do you know, dad? Right? But if your best friends tell you, hey, do this, do that, and do this, you may take it a little bit better. We have a ComScore is like this industry jargon. It's like a way to measure us, 25.4. I'll give you a perspective. How many of you read BuzzFeed? Awesome. Not awesome, actually. But their ComScore is 27. Okay? They have 150 million uniques. Their community grows. We do the job of a company of 250 people with 65. We do the job of a company that revenues $180 million a year, bootstrap. That should tell you something about passion. We have 376 million impressions. Impressions are how many people viewed, how many times your website was viewed. 376 million times a month, people view our website. That's the population of the United States, by the way. 2012 was the year we were founded. We have 65 employees, and we have over 3,000 contributor models of people who've never even seen our office, who've never even spoken to us, who've never seen us, who've never shared us. guess what? We built a community that allowed them to share their message on their terms, with their words, on their own community, to amplify what they have to say. And it aligns with their branding. You know, a political writer in college who wants to be ambitious enough to start building political branding can now come to Elite Daily and say, hey, I have an opinion about the Israeli conflict. Or hey, I have an opinion about Obama's healthcare act. When many websites say no, we welcome it. And what occurs? Loyalty. Because without one student who is writing, now can utilize the platform as his or her portfolio to land him an internship with congressmen, with the community leaders, and then take it. And we hope that one day we'll be able to look back and say, President of the United States, go for Elite Daily. We have diverse content. We are the representation of our generation. As you can see, we have everything from If I Were a Boy, where our staff writers said, hey, feminism is a thing right now, but if I were a boy, this is what we're going to do. This year, we decided to go down to DC, midterm elections, one of the most important midterm elections of our generation, to be perfectly frank. And when we look at like the blogs, we said, everybody's telling us what we should be talking about, what Congress should be doing, what they should be doing. And we said, why don't we just go and find out what Congress is actually doing for us? Let's stop hyperbole, let's stop like theorizing, let's go talk to them. And we went down to DC, we sat down with 8 congressmen and congresswomen, and we found out what they were working for. Some of them take Snapchats, some of them actually take selfies, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, you can find them all on there, right? Now, we look at how many of you are night owls? Well, we did research to tell you that you're actually more intelligent than the morning person. Isn't that crazy? Something amazing happened a year and a half into our production. Celebrities, influencers started coming to us saying, hey, I want to write. Hey, what can you do for me? How can I help you? We have Mark Cuban, we have so many celebrities come through our offices that we're now desensitized. And I think it was the craziest thing. The other day, Big Boy came by the office and we're like, oh, that's Big Boy, okay. You know, like, it was one of the greatest rappers of all time was walking by our office. We also had Congressman Sean Duffy come by our office, like nonchalantly, suit, tie, and everything, and everybody was like in flip-flops and like shorts and t-shirts, and he was like, oh, I thought I got overdressed. I was like, just a little bit. As you can tell, we have sports, world, women, you know, envision. We want to inspire, we want to motivate, but not by telling you how to do it, by sharing, seeing how we can do it together, what our comments are doing, what your perspective is. Our publisher reads every single article. You want to know why? Because he finds the diamonds in the rough. Our staff writers started as contributors. Many of them were flown out to our offices to come hang out because they started contributing. What happened? They believed in us. What's more powerful than believing in yourself? It's when someone else believes in you, right? Because you can make excuses for yourself. I'm too tired, I'm too this, I'm too fat, I'm too hungry. You know what? I'm into my Call of Duty right now, I need to beat this level, forget that article. But when your best friend says, I believe you can write that article, you're gonna look at that excuse and say, I can't let Susie down, right? I'm socially accountable. We portray those aspects and those ambitions to be held socially accountable. And that's why we're the me generation. That's why we post that status about that internship that was so hard to get. Because we want to be held socially accountable to do really great work. We want to be held accountable in an ability where our friends come next time and ask us, hey, how was that internship at the UN? I saw it on Facebook. How was it? What are you gonna say? Oh, actually, I didn't do it. I didn't do much. I was just getting coffee, and you know, that's it. No, but because you posted it on Facebook, now you're more ambitious. You're gonna say, hey, you know what? I want to make sure that next time somebody asks me how my internship's going, I want to say, you know what? Yeah, I was with the Secretary General, and we were talking to Malala, and we were actually at Emma Watson. Here's the selfie at Watson, or he or she. right? And opportunities start happening, right? When you start posting these things. Happens to me, what happens when you share? What happens when you become about us? Connectivity. Opportunities arise. A small anecdote, this is completely off the script, but a small anecdote. I was in Miami visiting family for this Christmas break. 305, here we go. And I took Instagram off my list. I said, hey, I'm an information diet for the last couple months. I said, let me delete a couple apps. The only ones I want to have are Twitter and Snapchat. Those are my two. I think Twitter is the most powerful social network. I should get some royalties for that. So I was looking through Twitter, and one of my friends posted a photo of a beach. And I recognized that beach because that was the first time I was ever stung by a jellyfish. You don't forget that. You know, you remember that little palm tree with the little thing? And so I texted him back with a photo of another palm tree. And he goes, where are you? I said, Miami. He goes, what are you doing for New Year's Eve? Over the past 3 years, I've gone to sleep at 11:45 every year to wake up. And you know, I didn't want to change the curse because those past 3 years have been really amazing. Really amazing. So I'm superstitious. I'm that guy that kisses a medallion, calls his mom, like, look, shaves out weight at one time, and like it's just gonna continue, buttons his shirt from the bottom up, just to make sure that I'm climbing, right? And versus top down. Like these are the little things that I do, you know what I mean? Like completely. So I sent it out and he goes, actually, we're thinking about this party for this thing. I said, hey, why not? You're in town, let's do it. We ended up meeting some of the most amazing people and connecting with some of the most amazing friends. We're actually laughing about it because we hang out in every city but New York, but our like location. And I got to meet one of my heroes. How many of you have heard of PayPal? Yeah. I was able to have fun with one of the founders, right? To have a one-on-one conversation. All because we were the me generation, and it turned out to be the we. Because of that one photo, because of that one share, we were able to create impact. And ideas were shared, and one of them we're actually going to pursue and see if we can turn it into a company. That was really awesome. And the conversation started at 12:30. So you see what happens when you start sharing, impact starts happening. And when you help socially accountable, your job and your work is going to reflect that. Here's our audience. This is what we kind of look like. So we've taken some data over the past 6 to 8 months. We've interviewed over 10,000 of us actually. We've gone through about 300 college campuses. We've spoken to about 10,000. We did a survey of about 10,000 people with 42 questions. How many of you take a 42-question survey for a company? How many of you take a 3-question survey for a company? Our audience, 1,300 of you, answered a 6-page, 42-question survey in 24 hours. 1,300, okay? In 72 hours, 8,200. Why? Because you guys see Elite Daily as your voice, as your representation, because we speak your language. And we appreciate you guys, because we wouldn't be here without you, literally. This is not one of these sentimental aspects. You guys do write the content for us. We just make sure that it's packaged correctly, and we make sure that that platform will never die. We're great at storytelling. But so are you. We're always telling stories. Whether it's on a stage, on Twitter, whether it's through ASEC, whether it's through your dinner table, we want to make sure that the storytelling is personal, right? When you relate to something, to someone, that it affects you, or you know somebody, that story is going to be more powerful and more impactful. The eyes become the we's, and it's very, very, very amazing when you find out when somebody's doing something similar to you, you can now reach out to them. And you say, hey, because of the story you were told, telling, the story you told, I was actually very much inspired. Going back to the storytelling, we went to DC in September to do this project. And Our video production team didn't even know the difference between a senator and a congressman, right? How many of you know the difference between a senator and a congressman? Okay. Right, okay. How many of you know your congressman? Do you know how to reach out to them? Okay. Storytelling helps connect bridges. It helps connect. It helps build. It reinforces. It enhances. It optimizes. So once you tell your story, every single company, whether you're a startup or an idea, all the way to these Fortune 500 companies, we're all telling a story. IBM was connecting the world. Twitter was saying communication is freedom. The White House saying that government is important. And then you also have the UN saying that the human rights is an issue. But we can't just say, hey, human rights is an issue. We have to tell stories. Right? We have to brand it. We have to make people believe in it. We have to make people. That's the key word. You. You have to make sure your story says something. And that brings me up to the next topic. What is your story tell? We have so many branding aspects now. We have LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Tumblr. I've heard of this one earlier this year, GitGag, Snapchat, and we're able to curate for the first time in many generations. We're able to curate how people perceive us and how we want people to embrace us and to engage with us. When you go on Twitter and you find that one guy and you hopefully one time you tweet at him or her and you're like, and you get the retweet, guess what? You're gonna tell all your friends, you're gonna be like, oh my God, this guy just retweeted me. It's gonna be really amazing. But guess what? Your story has to make sure that it's consistent, right? If it's not consistent, make sure there's a reason for it, right? If you're like me, I like my Facebook to be personal, but I rarely ask people on Facebook. And if I do, it's because I've spent 30 or more minutes with you. That is my requirement for Facebook. For Twitter, it's open. That's more business. You'll see me in a suit and tie. You'll see me with like my branding, what I've done, my accomplishments, and who I follow. I'm very highly curated, but it's very specific and very niche to innovation and culture. I don't believe in LinkedIn. Why? Because it's a mass ability to, let's connect, and I haven't even met. I guess what do I have? A personal branding page that tells you my story in video, and photos, and other stuff. It doesn't have to mean that you have to apply to these networks and these storytelling platforms just because everybody else is doing it. Create your own. Have the ability to go out there, but make sure you have a consistent theme about it. Mine is I want to empower people to leave their dreams and to make them reality. What does the future of the millennial workforce look like? Honestly, I don't know. But I'll tell you this. I'll be there to shape it. I'll be in the forefront. I'll be the pioneer alongside each and every one of you. We're now empowered. We're innovative. We're loyal. We're curious. We're ambitious. We're highly educated. We are the first generation in the world to be forced to go to college, right? Believe it or not, like our parents, I myself as an immigrant, I had to make sure I got to go to college, right? Like that was like the end all be all, right? Mind you, we're burdened with student loans, but it doesn't matter, right? I always say, go to college, skip class. The most amazing things happen outside the class, right? They really do. The most amazing things happen outside the class. Then, we're now becoming into a business environment where tradition is no longer respected, where tradition is no longer looked at as the viable aspect to create a workforce. We're looking at innovation, at disruption, at asking and flipping the models upside down, saying, okay, the bottom line, yeah, that can wait 5 to 6 years. I need to create an impact first. The bottom line will take care of itself because I know that what I'm doing is going to impact the most people and help out the majority. So the bottom line today is that focus on your story, focus on what you're saying, make sure you're driven by passion, you're doing it for a purpose, and that everything that you do it in a way that's reflective of your purpose that's greater than yourself. Thank you, guys. Now, this is Aaron. If you guys want to talk to me, I'll be on all day here. And Pete Moody, we're hiring. You got a job. You got a job.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Louise. Okay, so let's take a 3 to 5 minute break. So if we can have bring up our chairs, and you guys can like stand up, get some water real quick. We'll be back in 5 minutes.
That was really good. That was really enjoyable. What's the link for this? I don't know, but I can check. That was 95 minutes. How long was it? Ooh, let's see. Good job. Thank you. No, I'm in New York. Yes. Oh, no worries. I do not. I ran out. But how about I connect with you right away? Let's do that. Fantastic. Yo. Email. Where do you want me to put the link? I don't know, like post it on Facebook or anything. Like I don't know how people are supposed to. How are people finding the live stream? You know? Sebastian was the one that started it up. I'll put it on Facebook. We're yeah, fantastic. We'll definitely help you guys out. Thank you, Larry. Appreciate it. Hi, Alex. Louise. Oh, awesome. You're really through with it? Other sheet look as well. And I noticed that you no, you have to like because we don't want to focus on oh, that's everyone's trying to look
Oi, oi. Forgot we can't do that.
Hi. Yeah. So
the first day, someone was like, "This building is so good." I was like, "Oh,
Real people. Yeah.
do you feel better?" You're sick.
Also, if you guys are on the Twitter or the Insta, you can go and hashtag Y2B and make sure you tag ISECUS in that as well. We'll be retweeting stuff. It'll be fun. Hashtag love.
You know, like when you look at your eyes. I'd be really my That's what you said. It's like a word that just takes on. Like my dad says that.
Oh, this is it's good. It's good. So I didn't find out about this conversation like 2 months ago. So it's like, it's like, it's exciting. Well, glad you like it.
Hang on a sec. I would like if everyone could start moving back into the room so that we can begin soon. So if you can collect your friends from outside as well, that would be great.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Go ahead. Thank you so much for having me.
Okay. Currently business finance, supply chain management. I like this. I'm looking to get into it. That's really exciting. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Cheers.
Where are you guys based in? On Anderson Park. Yeah. No worries, thank you. It's one of those homies in that.
Also, you said you were hiring. So,
we're going to be hiring. Yes.
Yeah. You probably have.
So go to elitedaily.com/jobs. Look at the decisions, then email me.
Okay. But I mean, you guys have any so I'm in university.
Okay. Yeah, we have engineers. We need. Right now we're looking at for data analysts, full stack writers, coders with design aspect as well. We want some SQL, Java.
I'd be able to get some SQL.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, sure.
Yeah. Shoot me an email. Like, literally right now. Shoot me an email.
All right, so we get everyone to start sitting down. We get everyone back to the seats.
Right.
Great.
I'm not gonna turn down a meeting sign for you. Tell me what's up. Really not.
Amen to that.
Yeah.
We're trying to grab together as many as we can in Isaac.
And let's make sure that everyone's getting into the room and then we close the doors.
Dude, it's the greater aspects.
Especially in our generation.
Yeah.
All right, how's everyone feeling? Excellent, awesome. How was that presentation? All right, update for you guys. We have a hashtag. It's very simple. Hashtag Y2B. And make sure you tag ISECUS as well at AIESECUS. We'll be retweeting stuff, we'll be favoriting stuff, so it's going to be really fun. We want to show everyone around the country, around the world, that Y2B is happening now, and we have something to say. Awesome. Cool. So I would like to announce the next speaker, which is our panel moderator, Tammy Kesselman.
Oh my God, you guys, really? Hey, Isaac.
Hey, what?
Hey, Isaac.
Hey, what?
Hey, Isaac.
Hey, what?
Thank you. Make sure everyone's still awake. That was awesome and motivating, but like he got all the motivation was left after donuts for breakfast. So I just want to make sure that we're not going to like give any less energy to the amazing panelists coming in there. No disrespect to whoever on the organizing committee approves that. All right. So, okay. Did I just turn myself off for this? I'm done. All right. Maybe. Hello? We good? I done. Oh, I'm on mute. There we go. Okay, I'm loud enough. I can probably do that. But let's just start with introducing the panelists, shall we? Jump right. All right. Let's hit it. So, come up as I introduce you. So, Stacey Mason, as you can maybe see from behind me, is not Lenovo, but she actually just came to Lenovo recently via acquisition. She's been at IBM for a very long time. The working mom with 16-age daughter. We use really great snippets as they join the stage so that you can start to think about some questions. So thank you. And next we have Adam Garza, Director of Nursing. So he's an RN, Director of Nursing at the medical team. He oversees 4 different centers. He's been pretty busy as a full-time job. He's also a full-time dad and is doing his master's right now. So. Next, we have Saki Tagasu, who LCP of Berkeley. Back with you. So I think I might be a candidate for the advisory board for the VOA for the New Berkeley chapter. I don't know. Someone here might want to approach her after. She did her traineeship in Hong Kong for 18 months. 18-month traineeship in Hong Kong. And then her first job, her first real job after her traineeship, took her to 4 different locations in 3 different countries as part of her rotations of a couple months, a couple months, and a couple months. So it turns out even after ISEC, you could find jobs that just continue the ride. She went from for-profit to non-profit. So her current job at U.S. Japan Council, recently departed job, it was non-profit. She's also done corporate and has some gap year stuff too. And then our last, you can stand like everybody else. Bjorn Bilhart is the founder and CEO of Inspire Learning, as you can see behind me. He is from Germany and came here for a year in high school into Austin, and he's been there now for more than 2 decades. And is a dad of 3 kids. And we'll have a lot to tell you about. It's not just Inspire Learning, but he's actually started another company as well. Uber successful, cool entrepreneur working in a co-working space. So very different. So we have, kudos to whoever put this together, like awesome diversity in the panel. So let's just start off with a round of applause and then we'll jump into it. So my first question, which Aaron might have given me, was supposed to be the audience word millennial and what's it like to work with them. I feel like kudos to Louise. How did he do? Would that make anything? So I feel like I actually want to start with some other things. If you guys want to add anything to that, feel free to jump in on that. But I'd like to start with like a different customized panel for each panelist first, and then I'll do 1 or 2 general questions, and then whatever I left out or still a burning question for you, we'll turn it over to you guys. Sound good? All right. So Stacey, we'll start with you. So Stacey, among other things, and again now her new job has been 3 weeks? 3 months. 3 months. Oh, there. So she's 19 years with IBM. 3 months with Lenovo. So ask in detail about Lenovo. So one of the things that IBM and Lenovo do is work very closely with, there's some things that couldn't happen without the power of IBM or the power of Lenovo behind them, right? People know that? So one of those is the core jobs of the core activities of the NSA. Could not happen without the joyful help and collaboration of the NSA with IBM, Lenovo, et cetera. So one of the questions that I have is as far as in ways that we already understand and think about and know every day, and in ways that maybe we haven't even realized behind the scenes, what's the importance of and how do different corporate government collaborations work? And also in that, I know some people decide, and it's a lot of work to think about, do I want to go corporate track or do I want to go to government track? Sometimes you go to one and your core job is actually interfacing with the other. So if you can talk a little about that.
Okay, sure. So, a lot of people ask me, my kids specifically, what do you do? Because now that I'm going to teach, right? What do you do? So, so much of what these technology companies do it all happens in the background, right? So when you're using Facebook and Snapchat and Twitter and Instagram, there's all this technology in the background, right? That goes unseen, but it's at the core of how these new companies, what they're based on, right? So what's really interesting is, when you work for somewhere like IBM, Lewis mentioned it, like Watson, right? These large corporate jobs, you don't feel like, it doesn't feel on the surface like you're giving back, but you'd be surprised at how much you're actually adding to society. That was one of the things that kept me at IBM for so long. I always felt like I was working for a company that was really adding to the world, right? Making the world a better place to live and work and solving a lot of problems. So it's interesting, where this topic came up because we were talking a little about that I worked from IBM, and then my whole division, 7,500 people, got sold to Lenovo. And there has been a lot of core collaboration throughout the years between IBM and the federal government. And a lot of that core technology is now Lenovo technology. And it's been interesting because in this day and age, this is a very international group. But when you go from working for a solid American company to now a Chinese company, right? And in this day and age with all of the hacking and everything that's going on, it brings up some very interesting questions. But even internationally, you'll still see Lenovo at the core of a lot of these government programs because the technology is so critical for the Navy, even for the NSA. Right, so it's interesting. It's interesting the walls that Lenovo will go to make sure there's absolute separation and transparency for what they use, right, in the technology aspect. Because as all of you guys know, all technology is made in China for the most part. Manufacturing it's part of that industry. But there is so much that you can actually do in a corporation, whether that in the background you'd be surprised it's not a nonprofit, it's for profit, but aids so many people in the background. So I would, for all of you that are activist minded, I would not rule out taking corporate routes.
Very cool, and that's such a great segue that I'm actually going to skip down to Saki for a moment and ask her a question because we're going to talk a little bit about gap years that you've taken, but instead I actually want to jump back to the second thing that we talked about, which is the tsunamis. And going from your first tsunami experience, well, you were still in Iceland, right? Yes. And then to your most recent tsunami experience in Japan. So the Thailand tsunami versus the Japan tsunami, just from a personal experience and as far as personal impact.
Sure. While I was in Hong Kong back in 2004, I traveled to Thailand for holidays. Didn't think much of it. So on Boxing Day, December 26, 2004, I was actually on the sea that day. And we heard that something was wrong. We didn't quite know for sure. When we visited the other side of the shore, we saw debris everywhere. It's supposed to be the top 10 diving spots in the world, and we didn't know what was going on. When we returned to shore 8 hours later, we heard that about 2,000 people had been missing or dead, confirmed dead. We started hearing more and more stories, and it was actually the Southeast Asian earthquake and tsunami of 2004. At the time, I didn't know how much that was such a disaster, global disaster. But later on, it was 235,000 people were confirmed dead or missing globally. There was an outpour of support from all around the world. And that was my first experience really seeing such a unified support for a country, a region, to people. At the time, I was working in Hong Kong as a trainee, and I felt I needed to go back and really understand what was going on. I was almost in shock for about a month trying to figure out what was going on. I think the ISEC community was such a family to me that they were there as my support. The training community was a great support, trying to understand as somebody who was coming from a different country and then trying to figure out what was going on. My parents decided not to come to visit me at the time, which was fine. I kind of said, I need to really kind of reset my priorities, learn what I can learn, see what I could do. At the time, I didn't do much other than really report out what I saw, what I heard. It's actually on a blog that I actually communicated to the rest of the ISEC community. And they came together. There were several funds that I researched and said, these are places that I really trust and can really go to. Now, fast forward about 7 years ahead. So in March of 2011, a big earthquake and tsunami struck my home country, Japan. I was in the US at the time, working for a US-Japan nonprofit. And at the time, my boss was in Tokyo, and CNN went right after her and tried to interview her. She's the wife of a senator as well, so very high profile, trying to understand what was going on. And then what I could do at that point in my life, in terms of my capability, was to reach out to NGO organizations in Japan that were directly in that region. And we created partnerships, established a $2.6 million earthquake relief fund. And then thereafter, we formalized a public-private partnership with the State Department, working with the ambassador, the US ambassador to Japan, who was getting the directives from President Obama. And we raised over $30 million, and we supported, actually, we created programs to support the development of youth right after the earthquake, because it didn't make sense for a Japanese, for Americans to kind of say, here's money for you to hand it over to you so you can redevelop the region, when the government of Japan didn't want to lose face. So what we did was we developed a educational exchange program, cultural exchange program, and also a leadership and entrepreneurship exchange program that really showed the friendship and really reinvigorated the friendship and the ties that the US and Japan has. Now we've partnered with Coca-Cola, Uniqlo, Prudential Financial, Lady Gaga, Major League Baseball. So really cool partnerships happening, really visible. We wanted to make a big splash and really inject new fuel into this partnership. So I'm getting a little long-winded, but amazing things happen. And don't forget the things that have happened to you in the past, because you're always going to have opportunities to do something in the future.
Very cool, thank you. And so I already noticed a theme coming up as far as partnerships, right, and collaborations, and kind of keeping that Rolodex growing and big, growing bigger and bigger. You never know when people from your past or even current, but in a completely unrelated way, are going to suddenly show up as like the most important connection you can have for either your passion or your work. And we talked a little bit about big corporate, a little bit about nonprofits. I actually want to go to the end, Bjorn, and talk about the difference between corporate and taking a purely entrepreneurial path.
Great, and I can also try and answer what it's like to work with millennials, and see if I can weave that in. So my path, actually, I was born in Germany, and I came here to the US as an exchange student in high school when I was 15, and I just fell in love with everything that was here. We went to Pflugerville, Texas, small town back then, and it's now a suburb of Austin. And my parents thought they would send me away for a year, and now they have 3 grandkids that don't speak German, which they find very disturbing. But it's one of the amazing things. One of the things we can talk about, I think, at the time, I think it's just like the incredible internationalization of every aspect of life, not just business. Talk about China, talk about kind of how close the world has come together. But when I came to Texas, yeah, I truly was a foreign exchange. There was no internet. This is how far back this was. Yeah, I had to actually look up where Pluto was. There was no there was no place, no Google Maps to look it up. So yeah, I had to actually go to this library with a map that's detailed enough of Texas to find where Pluto was. But real quick, so my path was I went to undergrad at the University of Texas, was a drama major, then thought I was going to go into the foreign service, did a lot of things here and there, didn't really know what I was going to do with my life. Probably not unlike many of you sitting in this room. And then in 1997, when the internet kind of first came out, I realized there's a whole new world of technology that was to be explored. Went back to business school, I got my MBA in 2001, and then started my first company right out of grad school, and grew the company to about 40 people today, and did so with hiring a lot of people. So first of all, it's kind of funny, I'm talking here like someone that is not a millennial, and I guess I am technically not a millennial, but I remember very distinctly, it wasn't too long ago, when I was 26, starting my own company, and having, very similar, I guess, sentiments that were talked about earlier here, in terms of, there being no borders. We as, there were 3 co-founders. We as co-founders in an entrepreneurial venture, we would not take no for an answer. We would not let hurdles get in our way. We would build our own highways and all those types of things that you guys heard about earlier today. We made happen. And so from the perspective of, sitting back, 13 years later, having built a successful company, one of the interesting things that stands out for me is how similar actually the way is that, when we were talking at breakfast, how similar you guys think today to us as entrepreneurs, 12, 13 years ago. We did not choose the corporate path. We wanted to forge our own path. Back then, it was actually far less common, to be honest. Today, it seems like almost. Actually, I'm curious, how many of you are thinking about becoming an entrepreneur and being your own boss someday? So that's somewhat new.
And that's actually great. Let's do that poll of just start from the beginning. So how many of you think you're going to go to the corporate path? Awesome. And how many think you're going to go on a nonprofit path? And how many government or intergovernmental, World Bank, UN, whatever that is? And then how many are going into something like medicine or other things that don't quite fall in that? Great. Awesome. So we have a pretty well-rounded group.
So yeah, really interesting. Actually, so real quick, what it's like to work with a millennial. Here's what I love, and we hire a lot of people straight out of college. We have a lot of, actually, the way I got to sit on this panel was one of our interns was an IESIC member for Germany. And what I love about working with people, that are in college or straight out of college is just the enormous level of enthusiasm and can-do attitude. And that is, just prevalent everywhere you go, and it is refreshing. As you get older, you get more jaded. There's lots of things that happen in life that make you so. But what really happens when you interact and work with people that are the millennials, you do get there's an infectious level of enthusiasm, and that is what I value in working with people of your age. And one of the things that probably is worth mentioning is for you guys to not forget that many of us sitting here on this panel, we were in your shoes not too long ago. We're not that, it's not that strange a sensation to us to kind of stand in front of the world, having been in college, just graduated from college, and really having all these paths open. So we all know what it feels like. We all know both how exciting and liberating it is, and how anxiety-producing it can be sometimes. So, maybe one piece of advice from my side is don't think that we're strangers to those types of sentiments and feelings that you have now.
Awesome. And then how many of you are thinking about going to grad school at some point? All right, so that segues very well to. So Adamar, tell us a little bit about the balance between full-time work and doing a graduate program.
So talking about my work in the health field, basically every day is a different day. You're never gonna have wake up in the morning and say, this is what I have planned. In the morning, usually you wake up, put on your uniform and go to the office, you have your route, but something's bound to happen during your day. You're gonna have a sick patient. I particularly do home health. I don't work in the hospital setting, so we do visits in the home. I do live in a rural community. It's about 5,000 population. We don't have any emergency services. We have one doctor's office, which is only open every other Monday. So basically, you know, the home health nurses that we have in Everville is basically what keeps the community staying afloat. When I was sitting down here, I was thinking, I graduated in 2005 from high school, graduated in 2009 from Texas A&M International with my bachelor's in nursing, and I am about to earn my master's degree this July from Texas A&M. And I'm thinking here, I'm sitting here thinking, hey, my 10-year class period is coming up, and you know we've already had the meetings, and out of my class of 87 students, there's 4 RNs. Out of those 4 RNs, okay, I decided to stay here. And I'm thinking about the speech that they gave earlier, where it said purpose and passion. You know, I wake up and I have a purpose. You know, there's a community that depends on the nurses there, and you know, my passion is to help them whenever they're in need. You know, some of our clients have to drive over 1 hour to get emergency treatment, so we're basically, you know, the first people they call when they need something. And, you know, it does have a purpose, because at the end of the day, you come and you say, you know what, take off your uniform and say, I saved someone's life. You know, someone needed me, I was there, I did it. And, you know, that's the purpose, and that's my passion. And not only that, you know, going back to receive my master's, and it's for a purpose. It's for my community, because I know there's a need, and if there's a need, why not go for it and help the community as a whole? So that's the reason why I chose to go back for my master's degree.
Awesome. And it's doable.
It's doable, yes, it is doable.
As a full-time dad?
Yes, I also have 2 children, so I divide my time equally between work, my children, and school. But it is possible if, you know, you set a goal, and, you know, it is possible to obtain the master's degree right after you get your bachelor's.
Awesome. And then one thing that people suppose now, as far as who here has debt in college, right? Just a couple people in the room. Who here thinks about debt as a concern as far as going back to grad school? As I thought, I've heard myself one hand up. All right. So my next question to whoever would like to take it on the panel is debt a limit to options? And can you save the world and pay off your loans?
Well, being that I do have several loans from my undergraduate studies, there is several programs available. Being that I do work for a corporation, they did cover 20% of my college tuition. So being that I am currently enrolled for my master's degree, I'm currently exempt from paying my undergraduate. And I was very fortunate to be working for the medical team, which is a corporation out of Virginia. Once I graduate, I will sign a contract with them for 2 years, and they will cover my whole tuition.
So my title said former development director, because I'm currently in an MBA program at UCLA Anderson. And it was kind of a scary leap of faith, but I wanted to go back because there are certain things I wanted to accomplish. And I think investing in yourself is such an important thing to do. Once you start working, a good friend of mine actually said, invest about 1/3 of your salary, your income, into yourself, whether it be reading a book, going to conferences like this, or go out and travel, see the world, because that is your passion or you want to learn something new about the world. So that's like an important thing to think of when you're thinking of debt. It's not just that cost, it's about that investment opportunity in yourself.
Yeah, so for me, I got a graduate degree after 2 years after I went to undergrad. The advice I give is always, it's absolutely the best thing you can ever do is to get a grad school degree, as long as you know exactly what you want to do with it. I think there are a lot of people that get a grad degree because they don't know what else to do, and I think that the better choice, if you don't really know what you want to do, is to take a year off and travel, do something really fun, do something cool. You know, they'll be, and we talked about this earlier as well, you know, they'll be afraid that there's a gap here in your resume. It becomes less and less important, and actually employers find that interesting, you know, if you've done something extraordinary. So don't be afraid of that, and if you do go to grad school, you know, do so with a purpose. I think the way I see, you know, kind of the undergraduate graduate divide is getting an undergrad degree, one of the most, and this is very true, especially in the US, it's one of the most incredible things. You can take almost any class you like, you can explore different fields, you can change your major, you're not limiting yourself, you know, as you get your undergrad degree. So explore the world, you know, while you're an undergrad. Yes, you'll accumulate some debt and it'll be worthwhile. For most of us, it has been proven to be worthwhile. But there is another level of debt that you'll get into when you get to go to grad school. And you want to make sure that when you do that, that you know exactly what you want to get out of it. I started my business right after I graduated from grad school. And I knew that what I wanted to do was to use the 2 years in grad school as a launching pad. So I did my second year of grad school, I did everything I could to launch my business. I took classes that had very little class time and a lot of projects, and they all kind of somehow became related to my business. You know, I did all sorts of things that were exactly related to launching the business, which I was able to do, and ultimately, you know, I was able to pay my debt back pretty quickly. But I also have had friends that, you know, went to grad school kind of just looking around, you know, and they were overwhelmed by the people that knew what they wanted to do, and ultimately, you know, spend a lot of money without actually getting their return. So think carefully, but if you do know what you want, it is a great and fantastic experience. I wouldn't have missed it for the right thing.
And I'm actually going to ask that as well, because I knew I wanted to go to grad school, and when I figured out what program I wanted to do, because I was in ISEC and I don't know, wasn't the person who could just like show up in class and get straight A's. I might have spent a little bit of time doing ISEC stuff and a little bit of time doing sorority stuff that other people might have spent in the library. So when I decided that I wanted to go to Harvard and I was particularly goal-oriented, I then took my gap 3 years of pursuing whatever was the most fun in the moment that best positioned me to get into Harvard, which was AI, and then a traineeship, and then I did a real job for Xerox selling fax machines and photocopiers in a recession. Turned out wasn't that much fun, but all my friends at ISEC remember that other credit I had, and did a second traineeship, and then with that and knowing, to exactly what Bjorn said, knowing exactly how I was going to use this and how I was going to spin this, I was able to turn that into my interview with the admissions office and say, here's what I'm doing, here's why I'm here, here's why I think you're testing me out of the entire first year report, even though I barely passed the class in undergrad, and here's what I'm going to do in like upper level econometrics classes. And they believe me. So, but it's really important to get goal directed and then take whatever path works for you to get to that goal, as opposed to like, here's the track that people are on. And I think you guys as millennials are much better at that than we were, but I think there's still a lot of pressure out there to do, whether it's from parents, whether it's from peers, whether it's from watching your friends and seeing that they know what they want. But step back, right? Does anyone have anything else on that as far as just perspective and changing careers and meandering paths?
Well, I mean, I'm going to do a shameless plug for ISEC, but ISEC was the first traineeship that got me a real job at Emerson Electric, a major Fortune 500 company, and that led me to the path of to another great company, which was referred to me through an ISEC friend who had been part of that rotational program. And throughout the course of my life, I've traveled to over 36 different countries, 80% of which were ISEC related. So that helped me really understand the world in a very different way. And not just I pass by the airport, it might be into your home and then really help me understand what you think about your local government or what you think about what's happening in the world that really affects your neighboring communities. So that kind of relationship is really, really valuable in the workforce today that's more global than ever.
That's a great segue for my next question, and I'd love to hear from Stacey on it, as well as the rest of the panel. But kind of what's the importance of an international perspective these days, as far as if you have a couple different candidates, and some have more international, either real work experience or at least perspectives versus others who might have a really strong resume, but being lacking the international side. And then specifically, what do ISEC candidates give you that others don't have?
Okay, so I would say international experience, it's going to be job dependent, right? So it can be, I think it's a good thing to have because it's going to position you to have discussions that maybe you're not thinking about right now, right? So I know I was just saying that, I have come from IBM for so long, and it's very interesting now that I work for a Chinese company, right? It's very different. It's culturally different, and luckily, a few years back at IBM, I had an opportunity to spend some time in Hong Kong and Shenzhen, so I'm not coming into this cold, right? So those international experiences you pick up along the way, well, you may not know exactly where they're going to help you, but it was really good for me to understand, okay, what is the Chinese business mentality? What does an international manufacturing supply chain look like? Right there where it starts in, in that Shenzhen in China. So I would say it's probably, it's never gonna hurt you. Never gonna hurt you, right? So if you can grab pockets of that, I was able to spend some time in South America, right? More emerging markets. It's really cool stuff to learn and you can use because I'm in sales. And so I tend to meet with CTOs, COOs, CIOs of very large corporations like Fortune 500 companies. And all of my clients almost all of them have international businesses. So as we're talking about, I'm talking to a major retailer in Bentonville, Arkansas, talking about their expansion, internationally. Any kind of, it does help, right, that any kind of background you have to share because you understand the challenges they're going through to try to transform 500 stores located in this country, right, and what some of the cultural barriers are.
Anyone else?
One of the things that's striking to me is, when I started in business, it was international business. It was so foreign. It was between nations. It is no longer international. It is global business. Every single client that we work with a lot of Fortune 500. Every single client we have has offices around the world. And whenever we start, we do leadership. I forgot to mention what my company does. We do leadership development programs for a lot of companies. And so, we actually work with a lot of potential hires, college hires and grad school hires. Every time we start a new program with a Fortune 500 company, first starts with a pilot in the US, and then it immediately goes to Europe, to Asia. We had one client just a few months ago that wanted to do the training for some reason on the same day in 5 different locations. So it started in Shanghai, then went to Dubai, then London, then Boston, and then San Francisco on the same day. And it was literally a rolling training program, right? So the same program was rolled out in those 5 locations. And what's incredible to me is, in the 90s, when I came to the US, it was truly foreign territory for me. I was German. There's a lot of stuff here that kind of strange. Tacos. But nowadays, it truly is so global. Many of you, obviously, being a part of it, have traveled internationally. There is a global mindset, and especially if you go to the large companies, if you go to the mega cities. And so if you shy away from that, this is preaching the choir, but if you shy away from that, I think you're going to miss out on a lot of career opportunities. And if you think about, I can only work in the US and in San Francisco or New York, when there are cities like Shanghai, and there are cities, and around the world, my home country, Berlin, obviously a city, that are truly opening up globally, where you can do incredible things and work in international environments that just in a way that it wasn't possible even 10 years ago. So it was a really exciting time to be part of that global community.
And I would also give a shameless plug to taking the opportunity, which is much easier now while you are in ISEC, but whether it's in ISEC or after, to go spend at least 3 months working in a developing country. Because it will change your perspective, it will challenge your norm of what is how standard business practice works. And the more that you realize what are your assumptions versus reality, the more you'll be better no matter where you end up working after. Does that make sense? And so I strongly, and not only that, but also there's a lot of developing countries that really need help and guidance and can benefit from you. And as far as finding passion and purpose, and what you can do to kind of pay it forward from your experiences with ISEC, that can be a really important part of it. And I want to have, who here has some questions? Oh, there's one way back there. Why don't you, if you have a question, come on up here and I'll lend you my mic. And then you can ask away. We'll ask a couple of questions and then have a final question at the end. But come on, step on over here. You can ask from the left end. And introduce yourself, your name, what school you're from, and if you wanted, what country you would want to work in outside of here, and what your major is or your interest.
That's a lot. My name is Jonathan Butler. I'm the LCP for IT Mizzou. Where am I?
Your major and what country you want to work in, if you could work in anything.
My major, I'm currently getting my master's in education at the University of Missouri. And if I could work in any country, currently I would work in India.
Yeah.
The question I have is, as someone who started a business, and I'm an entrepreneur currently with my photography business that also acts as a charity. Something that I found was I hesitated to start for a very long time, not because I didn't want to do it, because I was looking for that why, for that purpose. So my question to everyone on the panel is, what was that defining moment, or who or what happened that helped you get to that why, to that purpose, to get you to where you are right now?
I get started answering that. So the question is always also, at what point in time in your career do you start your business, if you ever want to? And there are a lot of people that say, well, first I want to get some experience, in corporate America. And my answer to that is always, there's no right or wrong answer. And the time when you should start your own business is when you have found that passion and that purpose. Not when it's cool to start. I started my company in 2001. In 1999, everyone in my business school was running around with a business plan, kind of like today. And so everyone wanted to be an entrepreneur. And in 2001, when I graduated, no one wanted to be an entrepreneur. Everyone streamed back into corporate jobs. But I, at that point, had found a passion for education, passion for technology, and for combining the two in novel ways. And I was so excited about what I was going to do, the types of programs that I was going to create, that I just couldn't imagine taking another job. And I couldn't forgive myself if I weren't going to try it. And I think when I always say, and I think most entrepreneurs would agree with this, when you know that every other possibility of what you can do just pales in comparison to what it is that you're thinking of doing, that's kind of the right time to start a business, whether you're 23, whether you're 25, or whether you're 50. It's really that question that, almost nothing else, because the truth is, the life of an entrepreneur is glorified quite a bit in our media. Yeah. It is a gut-wrenchingly hard job, and it drives you to tears at times. It is not as fun as it's made out to be. And there are a lot more. And by the way, corporate jobs, my wife works at Dell, so I know a little bit about what corporate jobs look like. They're a lot more funner than they are made out to be, right? So there's this popular culture, I think, that's sometimes distorting things. So if you want to be an entrepreneur, you really have to think about very hard what are your passions. I remember, I have a few more things to say after this if you guys want to come up.
I'm not an entrepreneur, but I worked at a startup nonprofit. It really came from, there was a problem and we need to solve it. And I think entrepreneurship is really about what is out there that's a problem or an issue that you don't see any other solution for, and that's why you stand up. So you have to really ask yourself, what are you dissatisfied with that what's that thing that makes you wake up in the middle of the night and go, oh my gosh, but I need to do something about it. And that's how entrepreneurship starts. I actually sit on a board for an organization called Shea, which was started by a Peace Corps volunteer in 2005. She went to Mali. She saw that shea butter cooperatives that are run 100% by women, they were not being paid fairly. They were being gouged by middlemen. And she actually said, I'm going to do something about it. So it was an honor and a pleasure to work with her. She actually has a viable business. So since 2005, it was an online business. In 2012, they broke out as an actual product in Whole Foods, in 100 Whole Foods stores. So that's actually generating money and also jobs for women in Ghana and Mali, so that they earn $70 a month, which is much better than $30 a month. So.
So plug for the corporate world, right? So corporate jobs can be more fun, right? And so for those of you that maybe don't know what you want to do and you're not ready to start your company, when you work, you have to find your passion for where you are, right? And so you take the job you're at, any job it is, any job you have today, and you think about where can you make a difference? You can bring an entrepreneurial spirit to somewhere as big as IBM, General Electric, these huge corporations. And through my career, what I have done and what my passion is, I'm going to tell you all a dirty secret. Not technology. It's not. My passion is so I've been a sales manager, not a salesperson, but a sales manager for years. And my passion is getting the very best out of everyone that works on my team. Making them feel like they can do it, making them feel special. At the end of the day, making them feel successful. And that's, you can get so much joy and drive passion through that kind of focus, and you'd be so surprised, right? So, you know, for those corporate boring jobs, you can find passion there, and you can make a difference in a lot of people's lives.
So again, name, school, major, and country you want to work in.
Okay, I'm Shona Lani. I'm from Yale, and I am a global affairs and computer science major. I might possibly want to work in India or China later. I wanted to ask about jobs specifically that involve a lot of travel. How do you manage to keep any relationship family with that? And I know social media and digital technology helps a lot with that, but specifically for like a significant other family, how does that work out?
So I travel every week. What I do is I manage a business for the western half of the United States. And it's probably the most exhausting and grueling part of what I do is the travel. But what you have to do is, I have two teenage daughters, they're 13 and 15. And for those of you that think your kids need you the most when they're babies, they teach you more as they get older and they're teenagers, because anybody can feed and hold a little infant and they're content. But when you're dealing with teenage problems, they say little kids, little problems, big kids, big problems, right? They need mom and dad, and they need mom and dad. You really have to, if you travel, you have to have good help at home. That's either a partner or a nanny or a parent or a sibling, right? You gotta figure it out. You have to have help at home, because it takes a community to raise a family. It really does. So you gotta have that help. And it doesn't have to be a stay-at-home wife, stay-at-home dad, but you gotta have help. And you gotta set boundaries. I have a term that I use, it's called high value travel. I don't travel to go meet with another IBM or Lenovo person. They can talk to me over the phone. I only travel when it's gonna be with a client, where it's gonna be really move our business goals forward. So you've got to set boundaries. You've got to figure out what's important to you, when you're going to travel and why, and you have to have help at home. And you need all three of those things to make it work. My experience.
So I have a 5-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 1-year-old. And I guess I have the little problems. I look forward to the bigger problems. and I travel about twice a month, and my wife also travels about at least once a month. So it is grueling, and I'm glad I started my business before I met my wife and had my children. I don't know if I could do that type of startup again. But the truth is, it is possible. So you have to, first of all, you have to find the right spouse. That's step number one. Whether you're traveling or not, you have to. But you have to actively work. There's very little free time. The time that you have to yourself is probably never going to be as large as it is right now when you're in college. So other things will take over your life. You'll have very few precious moments where you can truly be there just for yourself. But when all is said and done, it's possible. We juggle things every week. We compare calendars at the beginning of each month, make sure that we're not out of town accidentally, both, but have no backup. So it's hard, and I imagine it's only going to get harder as the kids go older. But in today's world, it's going to be almost impossible not to travel in any type of career job. So you'll have to figure it out. And the other great news is that it is getting easier. Skyping every night, that wasn't possible even 10 years ago.
So because we have limited time left and a bunch of questions, what we're going to do is each of you is going to ask your question. Same thing, say where you're from, your major, your dream country to work in. But each ask your questions, and then panelists just pick one or more to kind of consolidate your final thoughts. You guys can step up.
Hi, I'm Brett Bishesky from ISIC Milwaukee, BPSEX. I'm currently a finance and supply chain management major. Country that I would love to work in is actually India. My question is, we talked a lot about purpose and passion today. My question is, how do you find someone that also has a purpose and passion and align your purpose and passion with theirs to create a company or nonprofit or work together to create
Right, hi, I am Sarah from ISEC NIU, and I'm the VP marketing there. So I actually just graduated with an undergraduate degree, and I'm now a student at large continuing 34 languages. So I was wondering what languages you speak and how have they been beneficial to success, and do they offer any opportunities?
Hello, I'm Jeffrey, the Vice President of Talent Management of NIU. I was in and the question is working in a company compromise is the hardest part, especially when two people have incredibly different opinions on how you should proceed in the flow, right? How do you find that compromise in those stubborn situations?
Hi, Amy. I'm from Yale. I'm the regional coordinator for Northeast Beast. I study chemical engineering, and I would like to work in either Denmark or Germany because I'm interested in energy policy. So my question is kind of related. I'm sorry, I didn't get your name. The guy from Milwaukee and the guy.
Right.
Hi. My question is kind of related to that in the sense that. Especially for starting a startup or being in a position where you get to create partnerships with other people. When you meet someone, you say, "Oh man, I really want to work with this person." What kind of characteristics and qualities do those people have, right? Like, what are those 3 or 4 qualities, characters that you look for partners?
Hi, my name is Chua from ISEC Peru. I'm regional coordinator of Rowdies West, and I'm an environmental engineer. And the country I want to work to is any South American country. So my question is, what, for the sake of being more self-aware, what do you not like about millennials? And do you see these characteristics as a generational difference, or do you think that these characteristics are just going to be a problem forever?
My name is I'm marketing from ISEC Milwaukee. I'm a global studies and journalism double major and a responsible revolution minor. My question is, your country. I would really love to work in Iran. I want to be a war journalist. So but my question is, how do you find or create that line between paycheck and passion and purpose? I'd like to think, we all want to live passionately in our day-to-day, but how do you draw that line? And if you can't draw one, do you create one?
My name is Bilal. I'm in Siam from Michigan. I'm a neuroscience major at a medical school in Canada. And my dream country would be England. My question, I guess, kind of goes with the last one, in that given all that you talked about making sure your family is taken care of, and that you're striving for your goals in your business as well as like your passions, how do you reinvent yourself so that you don't feel like your time, your days, your life is just checking off things on a list?
Thank you. Okay, so that's a lot for the panelists to ponder and to, at the same time as they answer, think with Rez, if they want to answer that, do it concisely. Because we're running a long time, and you have to remember it. So we'll get to the answering. Let me teach. Okay, good. You guys, whoever wants to start.
That's a lot of questions. So, someone asked something about when you're working in a corporation, kind of that conflict resolution, right? I'll tell you, when you have a group project and there's that person in your group that just doesn't want to do it the way you want to do it or see it, right? That doesn't stop, right? That happens at work, right? So there's no magic bullet to that, right? You gotta, it's keeping an open mind, understanding their perspective, and as you go through, I'm sure you need some of this leadership training, right? You figure out what's your negotiation style, right? You got to figure out what works for you. So I've got no silver bullet there. Those same problems you have with projects, it's going to happen at work too. But you know what? You can work through it, and it kind of segues into the other question that I wanted to answer. So I think we're probably the only non-millennials here on this stage. So what don't I like about working with millennials, right? I'd asked this point what a millennial was, right? Because I'm really not that conscious of it, right? So what is the age group of millennials? I go back to what I say my passion is. My passion is bringing out the best in people that work around me, for me, with me, right? So, what I would say to millennials, I would say you have to do the same thing people have. You come into a corporation, you have to remember, what my mindset is, right? And it kind of goes back to how do we negotiate that conflict, maybe different perspectives to a win-win, so everyone feels like we're moving forward. So it's compromise on the old guard, to have an appreciation for what the millennials bring into the workplace, also an appreciation for millennials on this country has been running fairly productively for a while, right? So how do we bridge both skill sets? So I don't think it's a matter of changing. It's a matter of the older guard learning from millennials, and millennials taking the nuggets from people who are more senior and learning from that as well, and incorporating it into it.
Going to the question pertaining to where do you stop the boundary from your passion to your paycheck, it's very hard because of passion. If you're very passionate about it, you can go very far and neglect your family if you have one. The thing there is open communication. Thank God for FaceTime. There's a lot of, I work with a lot of nurses that, we work 12 hours a day, sometimes 15 hours a day. We get home, the phone rings, and you know what, you have to drive somewhere. But if you're passionate about it, you're going to get up, you're going to do it. But when you come back to your home, you're going to sit down and say, hey, how was your day? Oh, I did this, I did that. And that's a key to a healthy relationship. As far as where you're going to cut the line for the paycheck, that's very hard because money doesn't buy happiness. It's what you do, what you're passionate about. And if you have, as long as you're able to live a healthy lifestyle with what you're making, I think that your passion should go further than what your paycheck does.
A couple things. So there was a question about language. I'm a native Japanese speaker, but I didn't really come to that career path until like 5 years ago. When I first started, I was actually Chinese in undergrad because I thought it was an important language that I needed to learn. And then I went to Hong Kong and learned that this was Cantonese because I didn't never used it. But then a couple years later, in another company, they said, okay, we can send you to France in about 30 days. So I took 30 hours of Berlitz training and then went there and could not speak a word of French. And then I was working on the factory floor where nobody would speak English to me. So through just, trying to create communication, because I had to do it for survival, I actually learned French and then was able to communicate to efficiently move product because I was doing supply chain operation at that time. So when there's a need, it's when you can really, really spurt that growth in language. And when you're really passionate about it, you can actually do it, even though you think, oh my gosh, this is something I can't do. And I know that Tammy has a similar type of experience being kind of thrown into the lion's den. And then actually, I actually came out to, sorry.
Anyone who wants to know?
Yeah, it's a great story involving some Italian mafia in a song. So your language can become a big asset to you and a weapon for you in many ways, but it might not manifest itself immediately. So just keep it on mind. About the paycheck question, I'm going to be very frank that nonprofit sector may not pay as well as iBanking or consulting, but don't discard it because I've actually started off at a nonprofit at I'll be very transparent, at $35K a year in Washington, D.C. Within about a year, that jumped to $60K, and then it jumped to $72K. So think about it. That's something that's livable. And if I'm doing that, something that I'm really passionate about and I'm really happy about, what is there to lose for me? So, you can have an optimal job and do well.
So I'll tackle the question of where do you find the people that you want to go into business with or work with, and what characteristics do you look for? And the answer, I think, for all of you guys is here, today. These are the types of people that you are looking for when you ultimately, at some point, want to go into business and you want to have co-founders. The characteristics that you should be looking for, the characteristics that you're looking for right now as you start a new group project, as you work on ISA leadership activities. So I'll give you really quickly my story. I started my company with two co-founders, both of which I've known in undergrad. One was, I was a resident assistant, one was a resident on my floor. And we knew each other. We weren't the best of friends, but I always found both of them to be just the people that I love to hang out with. Some of the brightest people that I've met. So when I was in grad school and I was starting Inspire, I looked through my mental Rolodex of who did I really love being around? Who did I love to work with? And for me, the characteristics were creativity, actually getting things done. Both of the people that I started my business with had these incredible projects that they worked on that were pretty well known when I was an undergrad. So they were creative, they got things done, and they were incredibly easy to get along with for me. So when I called them up, it was a no-brainer, and the three of us just decided to go into business together. So if you think about this weekend, the people that you've met here and the people that you work with at home, these are the people that will be with you for the rest of your lives. So it's something that you oftentimes don't realize, but it truly is these types of friendships that will carry you through, when you're 40 and 50. So
I'm going to give the panelists 30 seconds to ponder their answer while you give one more thought. But the very last for a quick question to answer is, what's one piece of career advice that you wish that people gave you when you were in college? I'll hang my way back. And while they're just pondering their last thoughts, one thing I wanted to add to this final round of questions is, if you really find your passion, a lot of times even if you pursue it in either a nonprofit or a startup entrepreneurial way, those are the ones that kind of make you a hell of a lot more money than anyone else who goes off to get some high-paying job, right? Who here knows who Blake Mycoskie is? Anyone? There's a couple. Who's Blake Mycoskie? Exactly, founder of Tom Shoes. What did he do? He went trekking around Argentina, and of all places to find kids with no shoes, Argentina, tango capital of the world. He was in remote Argentina and saw that kids had no shoes, and was like, I can't believe the kids are dying just from ground-borne diseases. I want to be a capitalist. I want to start my own entrepreneurial thing that I can solve this. And because of his passion, look at what he became, right? So you have to look at, he didn't do it to make millions and millions or hundreds of millions of dollars, or Mark Zuckerberg, right? Who maybe ripped off an idea, maybe came up with this idea, but whatever. In his dorm room, saw that there was need, saw that other people had this idea, and was like, dude, I can do that. Then he was doing it for free. If anyone was really adapted to Facebook, he wasn't doing it to make a multi-billion-dollar company. But your passion can grow and grow and snowball and snowball. If you have the right passion, it's something that other people are going to be passionate about too, and you'll find your audience and you can grow your idea. So I just want to leave you with that in that last round, and then if everyone can just give their kind of career advice you wish you knew.
Okay, 5 seconds. Don't worry too much about grades.
Be prepared and have an idea or a recommendation that you're always ready to be excited about.
Time management, just make sure that you divide your time equally with your family, with your education. After you get your education, just make sure that you go out and find something that you're passionate about.
I really need to be yourself. The same reason people like you as a friend is why they're going to like you in business, and that's what's going to make you successful. So be who you are, be true to yourself.
But each of us are going to be sitting at different tables during lunch, and he'll direct you to who, what, how of the logistics of it. But so, depending what you want to do, really, they curated this really well through 4 very different types or 5 very different types of experiences. We'll all be at different tables, actually 6 with Liz as well. So figure out in your mind where you think you want to go, and we'll see who's really good at strategy and gets to sit where they want.
Awesome. Thank you, Tammy. Thank you, first panelists. I don't know how hard it is as my sleeves go down because they keep on falling down. So the more it is, the more we're on the game. So that's cool. So I'd like to announce the last group of the morning, which are 2 soapbox speakers. So these are the great individuals that said, hey, I have a topic I want to talk about, and they're going to have 4 quick presentations on something that they're really passionate about. So I hope you guys are respectful. I hope you guys enjoy it, and I hope they have a great time. So can I present my first student soapbox speaker, Cynthia.
Did I said? Hey, what? Did I said? Hey, what? My name is Cynthia Anukua. I'm studying at George Washington University. I'm the regional coordinator for the Southern Comfort region, and I'm pleased to be here to talk with you. First, I'm going to start out. I have something to share with you. So listen out. 2 years ago, I had this great opportunity to be a communications intern at the Senior Office in African Affairs. And I learned so much there. I had so many opportunities. But there's one thing that I observed in my time there. So every Monday, we would have meetings, weekly meetings to catch up, check in, update. And it would last a couple of hours, but during that time, we would have a 10 to 15 minute break. And so usually in that break, like the first thing people would do, and I also get of it as well, what people would do is check their phones, social media, call someone, take a bathroom break maybe. But I noticed this weekly, every week, and I started thinking, this 10 to 15 minute break, we're here doing social media activities, serving as a time filler. We could be using something and be doing it more effectively. We could be thinking of new ideas, talking to each other, really like pushing the company further. And that's something that resonates with me, and that's something I want to talk about here. So before I go on, I want to ask the audience question. Think of this morning when you woke up. Some of us woke up at 6 a.m., some of us woke up at 8 a.m., some of us woke up 10 minutes before the session even started. But just think of the time you first woke up and what was the first thing you did. How many of you, the first thing you did was check your social media, your Facebook, Twitter, if you have one? How many of you took your morning coffee? Look, that's real.
Oh my God.
How many of you would turn off your alarm? Okay. All right, so if you're like me, it takes like 6 to 8 alarms to wake up. So I spend my morning like hitting that snooze button. But something we can all agree on is that most, if not all of us, had some kind of contact with technology today. And even if you didn't have, you click on a light switch, so you did have some kind of contact with technology today. So technology is a big part of our workforce. Right?
Yeah.
Right. Another question I want you to think about is, how connected do you feel with your colleagues, with your workers, with your teammates without technology? Something I have to think about is that it's mind-blowing to me, and I mean mind-blowing that a decade ago, or like over a decade ago, if I wanted to tell my family and friends that I was speaking here, I would have to email them, I would have to call them with WhatsApp, or by the time I got their response, it may even take hours or days, depending on how much they check their email. But today, I can easily send, a 140-character text or under and reach a mass audience. And then I don't have a Twitter, so I'm not really tweeting, but you know what I mean. Something I want to think about, and the reason why I chose to talk about technology is that it's so important in our society. We need to start thinking about how we can use our love, our passion for technology to build the workforce. There's been so many articles bashing us, bashing the millennial generation, saying how, focusing on how we need to cut back on technology, how we need to stop using that and really interact with each other. But what we need to talk about is how we can use that and strengthen us. And there are two of companies I want to focus on, Yahoo and Slack, and I'll talk about those and what they've been doing. One of them is Yahoo. And I chose Yahoo because they're a top search engine, but they're also, what they're doing now is they're switching more on the technology side. And a project that they started that I think that it's really cool is the Yahoo Tech. I don't know if any of you have heard about it, but it's a blog they started where they expose innovative changes that's going on in the world. And that's something very simple that has such an impact. Another one is Slack. I chose Slack because it's something we can relate to. The national staff of ISEC in the United States use this, and a lot of them have said it's really changed their work environment and the way they work. Slack is a team communication tool where you can share your files, you can keep updated. And the reason why this is a game changer in company culture is that it really, during your meetings, it provides a efficient meeting. So imagine when you have your team meeting, during the first 15, 20 minutes, you talk about updates and say what's going on in your life. But if you have Slack or other apps similar to this, and you keep in contact with your teammates, you don't have to use this 10, 15 minutes giving updates. You can just go right to business and start strategizing on how you can improve your companies. So after looking at this, two companies that I've just briefly told you about, I want you to think about how can we build our workforce? How can we, as Generation Y, the millennial generation, go to our workforce? What is something, one thing you want to start doing that you can use a blob of technology to impact wherever you're working? It doesn't even have to be in ISAC. It doesn't have to be in your job. It could be in your classroom. It could be in the hallway. It could be in your rooms. What is something, what are conversations you want to start having, things you can change? I know one thing small I want to start having is in my new role, the new coordinator, I want to have meetings maybe once a month where I'll ask them to hold their phone and say, hey, for the next 2 minutes, just find some interesting fact of the news that's going on. And for me, this small thing is important because not only are we improving our search knowledge, but we're also connecting with each other and updating each other and learning about the world news. So in the rest of the day, and whenever you have a break, even during the lunch, really think about what you can bring back. This little phone right here, this is a BlackBerry 9900, okay? You can't get this in a T-Mobile store, but you can order it online, so I'm a living proof. But it's interesting that this little phone, and just any phone you have, can redefine the way you professionals, the way we interact and work with each other. It already has. And something I want to do with you is this quote. It's not that we use technology, but we truly are living technology. Technology really is here. We're living it. This light, this PowerPoint, this projector, everything, we're living it. The question I want to ask is, are we living us? Thank you. Thank you, Matt. So now I want to introduce Ms. Lauren Bosch from Appalachian University. Hi,
everyone. I'm not as technology savvy. So, hey everyone, I'm Lauren. I'm a journalism and international comparative politics double major and BC marketing at Appalachian State University. And today I'm going to talk about something that you guys might think is over talked about and you've heard too much of it, but it's something that's extremely important and it's something that I'm very passionate about, and that is girls' education around the world. So I'm going to start here. This is a slum called Anawani, and it's outside of Mumbai in India. There we have Peshawar. She was born and she had dreams of becoming a teacher and going to school, but her parents had other plans. Her parents had ideas of an arranged marriage, and that she would learn to do household things, wife material, get ready for her husband and do things that would make him happy. So as she gets older, she is learning these things. She's learning how to keep a house. She's learning how to cook meals for her husband, how to make her husband happy, but she is unhappy. She was denied her access to education. So when Peshawar was 17, she ingested rat poison in order to kill herself. So how many of you think that's acceptable? It is extremely unacceptable for girls to care so much about their education and be denied that they end their lives. It's unacceptable that girls constitute over half of the children that are in school today. It's unacceptable that 30% of girls get secondary education. That means 70% of girls have no secondary schooling around the world. It's unacceptable. It's unacceptable that 100 million women in low-income and middle-income countries can't read a single sentence. This is unacceptable. So, obviously, those are some very, very bad stats. But next I'm going to talk about why we don't have girls' education. Like, we obviously have a need for it. It would obviously really better our community if we had it. So why don't we? First reason is unsafe travel to schools. There's lots of long ways to school in early hours of the morning, and this is specifically unsafe for girls to walk alone, so a lot of mothers don't want to send their daughters to school. inability to pay school fees, lack of separate toilets, and unfair gender stereotypes. So basically these girls are being raised, taught that they aren't able to go to school simply because they're not a man. And that's a problem. It is unacceptable for a woman to not get an education because she feels like she's chemically engineered the wrong way. So, why do we need it? Besides the fact that we're pretty much denying civil rights to human beings, why else would our world benefit from getting girls' education? So, future educated generations. This is a quote, an African proverb that says, if we educate a boy, we educate a person. If we educate a girl, we educate a family and a whole nation. So this quote isn't meant to like stomp on the men and be like, yeah, maybe or whatever, not worth much. This is a quote to empower women and to acknowledge women for the power that they hold. And if you educate a girl when she's young, she gets an education, she's going to make sure that her children are educated and the children after her. So when you educate a young girl, you're not just educating her, you're investing in the future, your future. So we also need it because it decreases infant mortality. So obviously if you're not educated, you're not going to know how diseases are spread, HIV is spread. When I was in South Africa last year, I was there for 9 months. I heard that a man, when he gets HIV, there's a myth that goes around that if he sleeps with 10 virgins, he'll lose his HIV. So, of course, if you're an educated young woman, you know how HIV is contracted, you're not going to sleep with that man. But uneducated young women, like, how do they know? So there's a 1 in 4 chance of a child dying before 5 if it's a child of a young man. Decreased child marriages. Sometimes this can happen if you have 6 or 8. You've all heard about it, obviously awful. But for every year a girl stays in school past 5th grade, it takes her marriage year back 1 year. So that's a pretty big statistic if you think about it. It decreases the population explosion. For an educated woman, the average children shoot off is 2.5, but an uneducated is 6, because they know family planning. It increases involvement in politics. It decreases domestic and sexual violence. This is me making a sassy pose in South Africa. The girl in the middle, her name is Mpo. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about Mpo's story. So Mpo was at the AIDS orphanage that I worked at, and she was living with us, and Mpo was just one of those people. You know those people that you walk into a room, and their smile just illuminates the whole place, happy, joyful, always dancing, always singing. She was just like a great girl. And I got really close with her. I actually mentored her and taught her 7th grade stuff, but she didn't have an education. So I was actually teaching her how to teach as a 7th grade student, how to read as a 7th grade student. But 6 months after I'd gotten to know her, Mpo ran away and went into prostitution. So my organization I was working with still hasn't gotten Mpo back to the orphanage. And that's because she didn't have education. She felt like that was the only way she could support herself. So that's a real thing, and that happens. It decreases support for militancy when girls are educated. What go wrong? Obviously, they've been making some trouble around the world, but they have a stronghold in Nigeria, an area of Nigeria where women are marginalized, and 2/3 of the women in the region have no formal education. So if women are more educated, they're not going to be attacked in this way. The communities aren't going to be attacked by these military men attacking marginalized people. And lastly, it improves socioeconomic growth. So the whole community is going to get better. We're going to come out of poverty. We're going to just raise the standard of living when we educate people. So obviously, there are extreme amounts of reason why we should try to educate women. But what does it take to improve girls' education? Parental and community involvement. This is my friend Leah. I'm like on the side in a tie-dye t-shirt, but I don't think you can see me. But anyway, we were visiting a brothel in the Suzu, and we were hanging out, learning about sex trade and how these girls got sold into sex slavery, and talking to pimps of them, and it was really interesting. But this was a baby that was born in the brothel. She was the pimp's baby, the head pimp of the house, and she was living in a home with like 30 other people on stone floors with mattresses. So, because like this girl was born in a brothel, do you think she's going to get an education and be able to live a fulfilling life one day? No, because the parents and the community were not involved in her life, in her future, and her education. That's a problem. So we need to be involved. We need to care about their futures, about their lives, and about where they're going to go and how they're going to influence the world. We need low cost and flexible timelines. Scholarships need to be available, especially in third world countries where they charge a lot that the families can't afford. Also, they need to be able to come home to do work on certain parts of the day. Schools close to home with women's teachers so that some of the girls will feel safer going to school. Preparation for school. Obviously, if you get like daycare before they go to school, they're gonna be more educated, more willing to learn. And lastly, relative curricula. So they're learning materials that are relevant to them, they're relevant about their lives, about what they're going through, and they're in their own language and English as well. Well, usually English. So obviously, a lot needs to be done. But we're gonna look at the positives for a second of what has been done so far, because a lot has. So in the 1960s, Oman was a very backwards country. And they had no access for women in education. But then a coup started and boys and girls started to be educated alike. So now Oman is a stabilized country compared to their neighbors Yemen, who are very unstable and they still don't allow girls the correct access to education. So we're over here fighting Al-Qaeda off in Yemen and Pakistan when we should be giving girls books instead of studying over drones. We can change the world by educating these girls. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights and the Program of Action of the 1994 International Conference on Population Development was the first conference that saw women, that they had a part in the rising population. And the Fourth World Conference on Women that was in Beijing in 1995 was the first conference to recognize women's illiteracy and how we need to work on it. And then I have this beautiful face for you. This is Malala. I'm sure you guys know her. She's like the best person in the whole world. But anyway, Malala, I'm like fangirling over her. But Malala almost gave her life to fight for this. This is how important this is. We see her, we see Emma Watson giving her amazing speech on this. Girls are standing out because this is actually important. People going out there. And then just normal everyday things. Elite Daily, talking about women on their news site, talking about how education needs to be given to them. Educate for America, getting education for girls and boys alike. So it's happening, but things still need to change. In 2000, the US and 163 other countries signed off on the UN Millennium Development Goals. So those goals, 2 and 3, committed that by 2015, every boy and girl would be educated, and there would be no disparity between gender roles in the schools. It's 2015. Do you think that happened? Nope. It did not. And not a single goal set by the UN's Education for All initiative was reached. Obviously, something's wrong. We're not seeing the importance of this. We're hearing people talk about women's education, women's rights all the time, and we're saying, wow, she's a crazy feminist. We need to realize that this is affecting us, this is affecting men, women, everybody. This is gonna affect our generations and the generation after that and the world in general. Crazy feminist. So, this is what people think of when they think of feminist. I hope you didn't think this of me when I started speaking. So, yeah, this is what people think of. This is not a feminist. A feminist is not angry. She's not bitter. She's not screaming. She's not rioting, she's not burning men's houses down. A woman, a feminist, and a true feminist is strong, but she's empowering with that strength. She's empowering men and women alike so that we can have equal rights so that our world can prosper. She's hopeful of the future and what can happen. She's aware that the power that women hold. So, my definition of a feminist is a person that's fighting for this, that's fighting for our future, that's fighting for the girls without education, the girls that need a voice. So, in my opinion, with all of this knowledge, with the world where it is today and where we need to go, if you're not a feminist, that is unacceptable. And welcome to the stage, Apuka.
So, whenever I meet somebody new, the first question I usually ask them to get a sense of who they are. What do you want to be one day? And not just after you graduate, but way down the road. And it's weird how when we're younger, we tend to answer that, but as we get older, the answer always becomes, what am I going to do right after I graduate? So, for me, my way to a little introduction. My father is Turkish, my mother's German, both are ISECers. And I'm born in England. My sister was born in Canada. I've lived and worked in the Netherlands, in the US, and Bolivia. And this patchwork has always inspired me to work for the UN. My dream was always to be Secretary General of the United Nations. Huge lofty goal at the top. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized the fundamental flaw in this question that I've been asking people. And the answer that I've been giving. And that's what I'm going to talk about today. So, thanks to one of our lovely audience members today, Tammy Kesselman, who was so great in the panel, I was actually able to get involved in the United Nations as a representative of ISEC International there. It's a nice title, isn't it? Nice thing you can put on your resume. The problem is, every time I went to the UN, I would always come out of there feeling a little bit like there was a hole inside of me. I always ask myself, what have I done today that has made the world a better place? What have I actually done? This is a question I encourage all of you to ask yourselves every day, no matter what you're doing. The answer can be as simple as, well, I went to school, I went to class, I've educated myself, and I'll use that education one day to make a difference. It can be that simple, but it's always important to bring it back to this. Think about your resumes. When you're trying to highlight things like your leadership ability, what do you put in boldface? If you're like me, if I had to guess, it's probably the places you've worked or the titles you've held while at those places. When you're looking at other people's resumes, what's the first thing we're looking at? Usually the titles that they have as well. When I'm interviewing people, one of my favorite questions to ask is, what will this position, what will this title enable you to do that you couldn't do otherwise? What's stopping you from doing these things without the title? And I have another fancy title, which is president of my local committee at my university. And when I was interviewing people for my executive board, I was asking them this question, and one of my candidates gave me a long-winded response, and it essentially boiled down to, I want to take on more responsibility. And I started asking myself afterwards, why is it that she needs this title to take on that responsibility? I think it's time that we started to redefine what leadership means. Instead of defining it as a title, starting to think about it as a quality. So we've talked a little bit about
corporate leadership today, so I'm gonna have to think on the fly how to work this in, but one of the issues I've seen is that so many of us are trying to climb to the top. And what I want to talk about today as well is why climbing to the top for moving up the corporate ladder, and it's just for the sake of that, is not what's going to make a difference in this world. Generating value is what we're really after. And sometimes we conflate the two. If I move up this corporate ladder, I will generate more value. Most of our organizations today are structured as a pyramid. Well, usually more like this, where we have one big head honcho at the top, and then all these people underneath. The way we even talk about our organizations, the language we're using, is disempowering. When we speak about people who work for us, who work under us, just using that language implies that they don't have the skills and capacity to make that difference, that they have to defer to you when it comes to a decision. I'll give another example. Is last night we sat until 3 in the morning, presidents of ISEC, all those between the ISEC US, trying to negotiate on a $1.5 billion budget. This is a huge, momentous decision we had to make without all the proper information. We didn't have all the right decision makers in the room. We assumed that we were the ones best positioned to make this decision. It's my belief that the entire plenary of ISEC US is positioned to make this, has the capacity to make these decisions, and that everybody should be consulted. And one of the problems is when we concentrate this much decision-making power at the top, we run the risk that we may not make the best decision. And I'm not speaking about what happened last night, but in general, in organizations, we have this habit of making decisions based on what a few people think. How can we redefine leadership to solve this problem? As I mentioned before, it's a quality. It's not a position. For me, leadership means getting people who want to change the world, is what I care about, to stand on my shoulders so that they can reach higher and touch the sky. If their dream is to change the world, standing on my shoulders, they'll be able to do a lot more than just standing on the ground. The way it's right now, we have the tendency to think, well, if I'm going to become a leader, I need to start climbing on the shoulders of other people so that I can be at the top. We need to start encouraging other people to stand on ours. That's difficult. How many of you have ever stood on the shoulders of somebody? Literally. So, unless you're a gymnast or have some innate skill of balancing, you probably haven't done it in a very long time. If you ever did, it was probably on the shoulders of your parents. I think that family is an example of some of the best leaders we'll ever be in our life. Our parents are the ones who educated, equipped us, empowered us to accomplish what we wanted to do. They're the ones who put us on their shoulders and enabled us to reach higher than we ever could before. Think about that when we're working in the organizations that we're working in now and one day we'll join. How can we take this and make this even bigger? As I mentioned before, it's a quality, not a position, and our parents are the ones who embody this best. In ISEC, we talk about leveraged investment in human capital, which is a nice sort of consultative term. What it really means is how can we as individuals do a little to make a huge impact on a great number of people. So we only have 2 shoulders. That means 2 people we could be helping. What if on the shoulders of those 2 people, they also had 2? We could extend this network of support further and further beyond ourselves, higher up into the sky, to make the biggest impact that is possible. What's a good example of this? Listening to today's presentation. Elite Daily is only 65 people, but they're putting the voice of our generation on their shoulders. They're amplifying what we're trying to say to the entire world. The solution to the issue of structuring our organizations this way, flipping it upside down. We need to start encouraging people to climb down to the corporate ladder, to become the shoulders of organizations, to become the support network of these organizations, instead of trying to climb up on top of other people. Responsibility is really what matters, much more than the title. So the message I want to leave you today with is to hell with the title. Start thinking about how you're going to make an impact in this world. The last thing I'm going to say, so thanks to technology, I'm able to have my father in the audience today via the live stream. You always use that to get the makes a lot of sound. Oh. When I first went to university, I talked to my father about how I was going to be able to pay my way through. And we decided I would take a loan out from him. How I would pay him back? Well, he knew my dream was one day to be the Secretary General of the United Nations, that lofty goal, that lofty title. And he said, well, son, when you get that position and in your acceptance speech, if you mention my name and thank me for everything we've done together, we'll call it a deal, and I accepted that. Well, over the course of the last couple of weeks, I realized, as I mentioned before, how fundamentally flawed this goal was. It's not the title that I'm after. Unfortunately, that means I'll probably have to default on that loan. Because me and all the other people in this room, we're looking to make an impact. We're looking to change the world, not just get the titles. Thank you. All right, up next, Pavitra Chidambara. Practicing before. Let's give her a warm welcome.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for getting my name right, everyone. My name is Pavitra Chidambara. I'm here from the George Washington University. And I'm here today because I have a story. I have a story of a girl, a good friend of mine. When she was 13 years old, she was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder, as well as depression. The summer before she started high school. She's one of 450 million people across the world who currently suffer from a mental illness. Another statistic. 1 out of 4 people globally currently have some form of mental illness. Do you think we're doing something wrong as a society that this high of a percentage of our people are suffering like this? Our society has failed us, but not in the way you might think. Mental illness is not a personal failure. If there is a failure, it is to be found in the way we respond to people with mental and brain disorders. This quote was said by Dr. Gro Brundtland, who's the Director General of the World Health Organization. He's absolutely correct. The stigma and discrimination against people with mental illness is alarmingly prevalent in every aspect of society. Now let me ask you this. How did you guys respond when I told you about the story of my friend? I'm sure you felt some sort of pity. It's absolutely natural to feel bad for someone who's suffering. Another question, would you hire her? The Oxford Journal of Occupational Medicine did a study on how people with mental illness are treated in the workplace. They did an international study about 2 years ago in the US and the UK. A bunch of different companies, a bunch of different business divisions. And they found 4 main stigmas across the board. 1, that people with mental illness are incompetent to do work. 2, that they're dangerous and unpredictable in the workplace. 3, that giving someone a job, giving someone with mental illness a job is an act of charity. And 4, work is unhealthy for people with mental illness. This is not just an HR issue. This is a societal issue. There are steps we can take to fix this. Yes, we can educate people on the symptoms and the realities of various mental illnesses. We can work towards better HR policies so that things like this don't happen. But there's something we can all do today, right now, that can foundationally change. We need to change our mindset. I'd like you guys to think about 2 different scenarios. 1, you've broken your arm and you need surgery. You go into work and you tell your boss, I'm sorry, I need to take 2 weeks off. I need to get surgery, I need to heal, I need to recover. So you go home and you do that. You get surgery, the doctors fix you, you heal, you come back to work when you feel healthy. Your boss is likely to treat you with the same professional mindset as they did before your surgery. They're likely to hold you to that same capability of potential. You're likely to have the same opportunities to earn a promotion, to earn a pay raise. Think about this scenario. You've been diagnosed with clinical depression, you're having a bit of a rough time. You approach your boss, you need to take 2 weeks off of work to go home and heal. And you do. You go home, you do what you need to do, whatever that may be. You come back to work as soon as you feel healthy again. Do you think your boss would treat you with the same professional mindset as they did before? They would most likely use one of these lenses to judge you. They'd probably give you less work, and maybe not have the same opportunities to earn those promotions, because they don't want to think, they may think that giving you extra work is unhealthy for you. They may think that you are unpredictable and one day you're just going to burst out crying in the office. What if we did this? What if we thought about mental illness the way we thought about physical illness? The Huffington Post came out with an article a few months ago. I don't know if you guys have seen this cartoon before. Personally, I find it hilarious and equally horrific. I'll give you a second to read it. Why? Can you blame someone for having the flu? Is it their fault? Why are people with depression and anxiety blamed for being too sad and too stressed? If you need to take Vicodin after you get your wisdom teeth removed to heal, what's wrong with taking Xanax to heal yourself from an anxiety disorder? So I'd like to revisit the girl at the beginning of this story, at the beginning of my presentation. That girl is actually me. I was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder and depression at the age of 13, right before I started high school. Why am I telling this to a room full of 350 people? I'm not here to ask for you to be sorry for me. I'm not here to invoke any sort of pity from you. In fact, I challenge you to empower me by thinking of me with the same professional mindset that you did before I just told you that. I challenge you to empower me. I challenge you to empower yourself. I challenge you to empower our millennial workforce by thinking about mental health differently. Thank you.
Yeah, my sleeves are like all the way down, meaning it's lunchtime. All right, so I would like to ask all of our speakers, including our workshop speakers, to head over to the lunchroom so you guys can get situated in different tables so that you have networking space. Candy's really excited, you can tell. Woo! Yes. Yes.
Is it donut?
Probably not donut. Probably. All right. All right, and then I would like everyone to go single file as softly as possible. Oh, yeah, speakers, you guys are free to get up and go, so you guys can have first access to food and tables there. No, not you. No, can we give a big round of applause to our student soapbox speakers? Awesome. All right. So, for clarification, we're now starting our workshops at 2 p.m. So you will be going to the workshop rooms and we'll have a map set up for you guys midway through lunch in order for you to know where to go in the workshop. Cool? Cool. Who signed up for a workshop? If you did not sign up for a workshop, you can still go to a workshop, but everyone else that did sign up has to get first preference first, okay? Cool? Cool, all right. Now slowly, you guys are free to go and network with the speakers. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.